Ready? Yep.
And go ahead.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Beverly School Committee public hearing for the FY23 budget. Today is Wednesday, March 11th, 2022. We are meeting in a hybrid fashion this evening using a remote meeting application provided at no cost to our district, with captioning turned on to allow for remote participation and for public access to the open portions of this meeting. We are also recording tonight and being broadcast and streamed by BevCam. Thank you, BevCam. On June 16, 2021, the governor signed Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, and on February 12, 2022, he extended provisions to, among other things, allow public bodies to continue to hold meetings remotely until July 15, 2022. This specifically suspends the need for a quorum and the chair to physically be present and asks our body to use technical methods to allow for safe public access. We would encourage viewers to utilize the BevCam streaming options this evening if possible. As a note, Beverly has prior approval for remote participation, although the chair and a quorum will physically be present when the act extension expires. Tonight, we have a quorum of 4 members physically present, and we are joined by 2 members remotely. Tonight is a public hearing. This means we have an agenda item for addressing the body. There is a sign-up sheet available, and members of our public were able to register in advance using Resident Voice at beverlyschools.org. Joining us today are members of the school committee and various members of the district and city administration and leadership teams. I will conduct a full roll call attendance in a moment for the record, since this meeting application sometimes does not display all participants. Please remember that any audio or video that you supply on this platform will become part of the meeting record. As such, please use your mute functionality to prevent background noises. I'd now like to conduct the roll call. Mayor Cahill?
Here.
Kimberly Coelho? Absent. Dr. Ken-Ann McKenzie?
Here.
Ms. Karen Robinson?
Here.
Dr. Jeffrey Silva?
Here.
Ms. Lorinda Visnick?
Here.
And I am Rachel Abel. We are also joined by Dr. Suzanne Chirocek,
Here.
Ms. Donna Bergeron,
Here.
Ms. Jean Sherburne,
Here.
Ms. Bethany Splansky.
Here.
Mr. Brian Ailes is in attendance. And I've already forgotten Marcy Glick. Marcy Glick. I should have written it down right when I was introduced. Okay. Have I left anyone off the roll? Does not appear to be the case. I am just checking we have no other participants trying to join the remote meeting platform. Okay, since we do have members of this body participating in remote fashion, any votes that we take this evening will be done by a roll call vote, called by the chair in alphabetical order, excepting the chair who goes last. And for our first agenda for the public hearing, now that we've called to order and taken care of some housekeeping, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance. And Mayor Cahill, may I ask you to lead us in the pledge?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now is the appointed time where members of the public would be invited to the microphone. Dr. Chirocek, I don't know if you have some slides that you want to present, because at this moment we do not have anyone signed up to speak.
I have some slides that
Sure.
I have some slides that I can walk through,
Yes.
just for informational purposes around what we're proposing for the draft budget.
Please do, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for the opportunity to kind of present the budget. I know that the documents have been available online for anyone to review, the full budget draft proposal book, and school committee members received a copy of that on Friday, so you've had some opportunity to look it over. I'm going to start first with, as I have throughout the budget process, just reminding everyone what our district goal areas are. I will invite anyone that's interested in learning more about our goal areas to come back to the regular meeting at 7:30. Later this evening, I'll be presenting our update, our action plan update for the district improvement plan. And that really, it's important because whenever we're making decisions about how to spend money and allocate our resources, we want to always be mindful of the goals that the district has set and how will the choices that we make in the budget process advance those goals. So we currently are working under 4 district objectives: creating conditions that promote equity, rigorous and consistent curriculum, innovative practices, and operations and management. I wanted to begin by sharing with you what the budget process in Beverly looks like. We begin this budget process sometime pretty close to Thanksgiving, right at the end of November. We begin that work by working with groups of stakeholders, students, teachers, parent groups, and in particular school committee members. We meet to identify the priorities that everyone has as we move forward. I meet individually with school committee members, and then we, at a committee of the whole meeting, discuss together those priorities. So we had done that. I collaborate with the principals in the central office to develop a shared framework to guide our decisions. We look and we assess enrollments and the impact that those enrollments might have on any staffing that we might need to add or be able to reallocate. We identify administrative efficiencies and restructuring opportunities and the additional funding that might bring to us. We review requests from the various department heads, whether that's transportation or cafeteria. We look at all of those to make sure that we're hearing from them what their needs might be. We review requests, we collaborate with the city to determine the proposed city contribution in relationship with the school budget. We reviewed the draft proposal with the school committee at the last school committee meeting, and here we are tonight at our public hearing on May 11th. So this is our opportunity to share our draft proposal with the public and to hear from them and allow the school committee to hear from anyone that wants to weigh in. These are the priorities that I referenced. We worked very hard to kind of make sure that we heard from the many different stakeholder groups and we were able to kind of determine where and when we wanted to make adjustments to the budget to take a look at our priorities. The big buckets that we looked at were the social, emotional, and mental health of our students. It's an ongoing area that we continue to review and look at. And in particular, this year, it was we brought up ideas about whether we had to increase any of our funding sources around trauma and stress and how we're responding to that. How are we working with after the bell activities? How are we doing with counseling and any of our outside partners that we might need to engage? What tools might we need to provide for our teachers supporting trauma-sensitive classrooms? And also, are there any other need for mental health services within our schools? Under teaching curriculum and teaching and learning, we've been working very hard over the past few years to align equity, to take a look at our resources, to identify high-quality curriculum materials, to make sure that with those materials, we're working on professional development. And in particular this year, we've had a couple of different conversations about substitutes. As we all know, the pandemic has brought forth a critical shortage of staffing in a lot of areas. For us, substitutes was one area, so we had that on our priority list. Under operational, we all know that again, the costs and the new reality around some of the costs around transportation we had to address within this budget. We also have been working really hard within our human resources department. How are we building a diverse workforce? Are we attracting high qualified candidates to our district? How are we retaining staff in our district? And so those are some of the areas that we looked at under operational. And then finally, in communication, we wanted to continue to make sure that we were communicating clearly with the families in our district and the community what information on after-school activities. We wanted to make sure that we were leveraging our digital resources to expand family engagement access. One thing we learned through the pandemic is that the digital access that is provided even here tonight in our school committee meeting really provided opportunities for families to engage in ways that they weren't able to do before, and we didn't want to lose the gains that we made in that area. We wanted to continue to look at effective ways to share out school committee communication. We wanted to look for standard expectations for pushing out information from our buildings to our families, and also support parent-teacher communication within our schools. that was a quick list of the priorities. Whenever we're working on a budget, there are several factors that impact the budget. And this year, for the FY23 budget, we had, as we always do, contractual obligations. We enter into our contracts. We have 6 units that we bargain with, as well as having some individual contracts throughout the school community, so we had certain obligations that we would be bound to contractually. We look at our enrollment and staffing. We look at our department funding requests. And then finally, again, this year, as we had last year and will likely going into next year, there are multiple sources of funding that we have that is unique to the last couple budget cycles. And so we want to make sure that we're thinking about not only the appropriated budget, which is the budget that you'll be voting on this evening, but also, you know, the grants and entitlement, the entitlement grants and the ESSER grants. We've had a lot of conversations over the last 3 months, providing information to the committee and the public as to what our use of funds are around those grants. And then finally, also revolving accounts. You'll see we referenced revolving accounts in here a little bit later. The contractual obligations that I referenced, these are our contractual obligations for FY23, or at least some of them. We know that our COLA for our staff is at $1,602,251. Our steps and our lanes, which is the way that the contracts are structured for our teachers, involve the number of years they've worked or the amount of education that they have. And then finally, we've assessed our health care increase to range between 3% and 5%. And that was working with the city to identify what that funding source should be from them. So the second thing we looked at were those enrollments and staffing. And this is, if you look in the book, this is what you'll see. We felt like we would come forward and try to explain some of it. You'll see and we'll go through the elementary one slow, you'll see there are increases and decreases, and that sometimes occurs, particularly at the elementary level. We may have a cohort of students in grade 2, for example, that require 4 classes. And when they move into grade 3, those 4 classes are still needed there. But the group coming up from grade 1 only requires 3 teachers. So that's how that the increase and decrease happens at the elementary level. And in addition, over the past year, we utilized some of the ESSER funding in some buildings to particularly defray or meet some need, and there may be decisions that some of those have shifted now. So a good example is at the Air School, we're decreasing one grade 1 classroom, but we added an interventionist in one of our last budget meetings. So at the elementary level, we looked at what that effective FTE change is. That's full-time equivalent. And so across all 5 elementary schools, this budget proposes an increase of 4.0 FTEs, but do note that 3 of those positions are funded through ESSER. So we're looking at the biggest impact right now is the 5 student support counselors at each of the elementary schools. Those are the City Connects positions that we've been talking about in our last few meetings when we've presented the model of that we're hoping to move to. So, and then there's a decrease of grade 1 at Ayers that will move them from 5 sections to 4. There's an increase of 1 kindergarten teacher at Centerville, but that's offset by the decrease of 1 kindergarten teacher at Hannah. It really just depends on where the enrollments lie. There's an increase of 1 grade 1 teacher at Centerville. There's an increase of a grade 3 teacher at Hannah, an increase of a grade 2 teacher at North Beverly, but there's a decrease of a grade 3 teacher at North Beverly. So again, that's that moving target. In the middle school, we have an effective FTE change of 3.4. In particular, you'll notice there's an increase of the 2 student support counselors. Those again are the City Connects counselors. There is a decrease of 1 instructional coach and a decrease of 1 math teacher, but you'll see an increase of 2.0 curriculum support. Those jobs are just shifting. That we're moving from a reading coach model to a curriculum support in humanities, and we're moving from an extra math teacher to a curriculum support in STEM. We didn't add those positions, we're just shifting how we're using them. We're increasing 0.4 reading teachers at the middle school. That's largely due to a change of staffing that we have up there, making sure that we're accounting for all the staffing that we're using. There is an increase of 1 STEM teacher and 1 wellness teacher that is directly impacted by the middle school schedule that was proposed to the committee, I think a month ago. And finally, there's a decrease of 1 attained teacher that's enrollment driven. Finally, at the high school, there's an effective FTE change of 10 2.0. Again, there's one student support counselor, that is that City Connects counselor. And then there are some content teachers that we have specifically added, one English and one science. Those are proposed to be funded, though, through school choice revolving rather than from the appropriated budget. We have one business and one culinary. Those are proposed to be funded through the appropriated budget. There's a transition specialist. A transition specialist is someone who works with our students that are in special education when they they turn 18. Some students they get a certificate of completion for high school, but they move into a work program, and so we are responsible for them through age 22. And so this is a transition specialist that will help us with that. There's a special education teacher at Accomplish. Remember, we decreased a teacher in Attain at the middle school. Those classes are moving up to those students are moving up to the high school, so that position is moving up to the high school. The 2.0 building supports, those are positions, if you remember this year at the middle school, we had piloted the opportunity to have building-based substitutes that would help alleviate some of the need to pull paras out of the classroom and try to provide more effective coverage. At the high school, the proposal for these are that we will have one that's a certified humanities teacher and one that's a certified STEM teacher, so that when our teachers are absent in those core content, there's someone in the building who's consistent, who's part of those teams, who understands, and so that the instruction can remain more consistent. We think that will be really a big help. And then finally, there's an increase of one guidance counselor at the high school. We're proposing some district-wide staffing changes. Again, it's an effective FTE change of 3.7. The first is the 2 subs at the elementary level, again, trying to address that need for substitute coverage. These are going to be specifically working in the special ed department and will be going to buildings to cover for team meetings. Right now, that's one of the biggest areas that we find that we're pulling paraprofessionals out of their regular roles to cover classrooms. And so we believe this will really benefit us in being able to provide more consistent coverage and not disrupt the things that are going on in the buildings. We are asking for an increase of 0.7 elementary strings at the elementary level, largely because the enrollment in strings at the high school has grown, so that we need a full-time strings teacher here, and we will be posting and hiring someone to work on the elementary program. And then there's finally a 1.0 elementary library resource. It's something that we've been working on for a very long time. How can we address the elementary libraries? And so that's what that one is in there for. I put a quick snapshot of enrollments. I know that you all have seen these enrollments before. I just thought it's interesting to take a look by building at what our enrollments are. At the McEwen School, we anticipate having 118 full-day students with 9 sections, and those class sizes range from 9 to 15. It all depends on the need of the students and the type of classroom that they're in. And then each building, so at the Air School, we are proposing that be 4 sections at each grade level. You can see the class sizes ranging from 18 to 21.5 across those, with a total enrollment at the Air School of 392. At Centerville, you can see, this is what I spoke about earlier, how the different cohorts have different sizes and different numbers of sections that are required. And they have a variety of requirements around the number of sections, with class sizes ranging from 15.75 up to 20, and for a total enrollment right now of 319.
Could I ask you to pause?
Yep.
Just checking, is the audio working for our remote participants? Getting no head nods. Ms. Visnick, can you hear us?
I don't know.
Okay, I think it might be just Ms. Visnick.
Oh, wait. Ask again.
Okay, now you can hear us. Okay, I apologize. We just lost it for a moment.
I don't have to go back, do I? Okay, all right. All right, thank you. So again, at Cove, they're pretty steady across the number of sections, 4 sections at each grade level. They have they have programs that are located at the Cove School that serve our students on the autism spectrum. Their class sizes, again, also range 17.5 up to 21.5, with a total enrollment of 418. The Hannah School is these last 2 schools are much the same. They have the enrollments that may move from grade to grade. But again, class sizes ranging from 15.75 to 20, with a total enrollment of 344. And at North Beverly, again, some different enrollments with the class sizes ranging from 15 to 20.7, with a total enrollment of 359.
I believe we have a question. Ms. Visnick?
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say, Dr. Chirocek asked if she should go back, and I don't know everybody who's participating remotely. The portion that we missed when she got cut off was the explanation of why a teacher moves up from Centerville, and that might be worth restating.
Okay, yep,
because she got
thank you.
cut out.
Yep. So if you, I'll use North Beverly for an example here. At the North Beverly Elementary School in grade 2, last year, or let's look at grade 3 and 4, right? So last year in grade 3, there were 4 sections of grade 3. Those 4 sections moved to grade 4. But this year, the group that's moving up from grade 2 only needs 3 sections. So some years there's 4 third grade teachers, and some years there's 3 third grade teachers. It all depends on the number of students that are in the grade level across the school. And so that is work that we do every year. That's been ongoing. In the 2 schools that it really doesn't impact are the Air School and the Cove School, because their enrollments are such that they're pretty steady at 4 across the board. So thanks for that question. At the middle school, we have our enrollments in grades 5, 6, 7, and 8 shown here. We have the number of sections, so we know that grades 5 and 6 work in 2-person teams. There are 7 2-person teams in each one of those grades. And in 7 and 8, they work in neighborhoods with a 5-person teams in the neighborhoods, with the 5th subject being foreign language. And so again, we have a total enrollment anticipated at the middle school of 1,392. At Beverly High School, we have the class sizes that are anticipated, and there's been some variability in the class sizes at the high school. We had a small group that is in the current freshman year. Next year, we are anticipating, so originally you saw this number, it was in the 370s, but we have seen that there have been about 60 acceptances to the North Shore Tech. Not sure how many of those will go, so this is an estimate on that. I estimated around 50, and puts us at 325. And again, there are the students in the special ed program, so we're anticipating 1,325 at the high school. The budget also reflects some non-staffing requests, and these we reviewed at the school committee meeting as well. Special education transportation, we're shifting over an additional $250,000 to cover the cost of special education transportation. And the same with homeless, shifting about $120,000 to cover the cost of the homeless transportation. We have to assume the electric bus leases. That would be $50,000 that we added to make sure we have the money to cover that. This is the money that I talked a little bit about that we're adding into the budget around sustainability efforts. So $20,000 for rubbish trucking, which would mean it would work around us being able to look at some composting efforts, and $20,000 for sustainability stipends to get our teachers stipended for any work that they might do in this area for us in our schools. And then finally, we have the HR software upgrade. We're anticipating moving to an upgrade of Munis, and adding some additional modules for that. These modules will allow our teachers to have maybe some self-service for themselves within the HR department. We still currently are issuing some paper receipts, paper stubs to teachers. We know that we can do better and have more efficiency. So we're working within that. And that is in conjunction with the city, who is also working on the same upgrade within the Munis system.
And better onboarding.
And better onboarding, correct, right, as we bring people in. I mentioned that we have multiple sources of funding that we need to keep in mind and understand. We in Beverly have been the recipients of 3 different ESSER grants. ESSER 1 for $555,939. That was funding that was available for FY21 and FY22. That money has been encumbered and or expended at this point. We received funding for ESSER 2, $2,119,947. That funding is available through FY22 and FY23. FY23. We are about 50% of the way through those funds at this point in time. And then we have ESSER funding for $4,741,978, and those funds are available FY22 through FY24. And so just for anyone that doesn't know, the funding comes as part of the American Rescue Plan, and the ESSER funds really stand for Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Funds. For people that want more information about the ESSER funding, I want you to know there is on our website, we have more detailed information for anyone that's interested. If you look on the finance page under use of ESSER funds, you'll see that we have it there. And if you click on this, you'll see that our entire ESSER plan is sort of there for anyone that's interested in learning more about the ESSER funding. And so just a reminder, the purpose of the ESSER 3 fund is to support the safe reopening and sustaining safe operations of schools while meeting students' academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs resulting from the pandemic. That was the purpose of the funding as it came our way. Each one of these grants have very specific allowable uses for what we can use them for. While we're very excited to have them, we're also being very cautious to make sure that we're utilizing them in a way that doesn't set us up for more challenges later. So that finally brings us to our appropriated budget request. In FY22, the city contribution was $54,785,483. Our Chapter 70 funding in FY22 was $10,599,74 for a final budget appropriation of $65,376,407. This year, our proposed city contribution is $56,201,457. The Chapter 70, which is right now at the state level, House Ways and Means have approved it. It's the Senate. We're waiting for the Senate approval to come. We expect to see it posted probably by Friday. But we're sitting at $13,158,441 and believe that's a pretty solid number for us in Beverly. So our proposed final budget appropriation is $69,359,898.
And you can tell them that it just was posted immediately now. and
Okay,
it's the
well,
same.
it's posted immediately now, and it is the exact same number. So that we can have confidence in the idea that Chapter 70 money, we looked about 20 times today, and it was
Yes.
not up there, but now it's up there. So that number has been also moved forward by the Senate. So we're pretty sure that will be the number that we have. I did put this in just in case anyone's interested in looking by cost center. By cost center, we mean either by school or by department, how the budget is distributed. Where is that $69 million distributed over the different cost centers? This information, again, is available in the budget book, but just as a point of reference to, share with everyone that that's what it is. And I would have to update this, but I'm not going to do it right now, where we are in the legislative process. But Jean just informed me that the Senate budget has also approved $13,158,441 for us in Chapter 70 funding. So that we're pretty confident that that's a good number.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Trocheck. I'll just remind members that we'll have an opportunity to discuss this at our regular school committee meeting that commences at 7:30. We were joined online by 3 members of our CISL team, Oliver Wagner, Charmaine, and Lorigan Sudak, but they are not here to participate in the public hearing. I do not see any members of the public that are requesting to speak. I don't know if Ms. Bergeron, you can just check our email one last time.
I have none.
No members have signed up to speak.
No.
Okay. Well, we are at the top of the allotted time for this meeting. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor Cahill.
Second.
And thank you, Ms. Robinson. We do need to take a roll call vote for the motion to adjourn. Mayor Cahill?
Yes.
Ms. Coelho is absent. Dr. McKenzie?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Dr. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Visnick?
Yes.
And Ms. Abel. That's 6-0. It's 6:30 p.m. We are adjourned from our public hearing. Thank you. We're going to give BevCam just a moment, and then we'll roll into our CISL meeting that Ms. Robinson will chair.
microphone again.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Beverly School Committee Subcommittee on Curriculum Instruction and Student Learning. Today is Wednesday, May 11th, 2022, and we are meeting in a hybrid model today using a remote meeting application provided at no cost to our district with captioning, allowing for remote participation and for public access to the open portions of the meeting. We are also recording tonight and being broadcast and streamed by BevCam. Thank you, BevCam. On June 16th, 2021, the governor signed the Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. On February 12th, 2022, he extended provisions to continue to hold meetings remotely until July 15th, 2022. This specifically suspends the need for a quorum and the chair to be physically present and asks our body to use technical methods to allow safe public access. We would encourage viewers to utilize BevCam streaming options this evening if possible. As a note, Beverly has prior approval for remote participation, although the chair and a quorum will be physically present when this act expires. Joining us today are members of the school committee and various members of our district administration and leadership teams. We will conduct a full roll call attendance in a moment for the record, since the meeting application sometimes does not display all participants. Please remember that any audio-video you supply on this platform will become part of the meeting record. As such, use your mute functionality to prevent background noises. And I would like to ask our school committee president, Rachel Abel, to help me with a roll call vote.
Sure, I'll call the roll. Today we have Dr. Jeffrey Silva.
Here.
I'm Rachel Abel, and we have Ms. Karen Robinson, committee members. We are joined by Assistant Superintendent Dorothy Flaherty,
Present.
Dr. Suzanne Chorocek, our superintendent,
Here.
Liz Curran, our recording secretary,
Here.
Betty Taylor, the principal of the high school, is here in person. And joining us remotely, we have our citizen representative, Lorigan Sudak. Another citizen, thank you. Another citizen representative, Laurel Bolden.
Here.
And our student representatives, Charmaine
Present.
and Oliver.
Here.
Okay, the additional logins are just our BevCam friends, as well as the assistant superintendent and superintendent for presentation's sake. And I don't know if we want to do the whole audience. We have our librarians with us today from the middle school and high school, Alex Wozniak and Barb Fecto. And I don't know who's under. Okay, nice to meet you, and thank you for joining us this evening. That's our role.
Thank you, Madam President. I would, before we turn this over to Dr. Flaherty, I would like to ask Dr. Chorocek to lead us in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and Dr. Flaherty.
Thank you, and good evening. On screen right now, you can see our agenda. We have quite a few items to discuss this evening, so we're going to set a new record of what we can cover in an hour. The first thing on our agenda will be the approval of minutes. We will then hear updates from our student representatives. And then our focus topics for this evening will include an overview of our summer reading program, approval of some pre-calculus and calculus new texts and resources for the high school, and we'll have an update on our ELA review and process across all three levels, with a recommendation for a new literacy program for the elementary level. We do have approval of handbook changes on the agenda for this evening. However, the elementary and middle school do not have any changes this year. There is one that will deal with electronic devices and cell phones for the high school. However, they're still in talks and planning stages, so we will actually be bringing that back at our June meeting. So we won't be discussing any handbook information tonight. So the first thing on our agenda is a motion to approve the minutes of the April 13th, 2022 meeting.
I'd be willing to make a motion to approve the April 13th, 2022 meeting records.
Second?
The motion's been made and seconded. Ms. Abel, could you call a roll for us?
Sure, absolutely. Let's start with our remote participants, and I'll try to stay in order. Charmaine?
Excuse me? Sorry, I couldn't hear.
Sure, we're calling a roll for approving our meeting records of our April 13th, 2022 meeting.
Oh, I was absent that meeting.
Okay, so you can abstain. Thank you. Oliver?
Abstain.
Abstain. Lorgan Sudak?
Yes.
Laurel, where did you go? Laurel Bolden.
Abstain.
Okay. Dr. Silva?
Yes.
Karen Robinson?
Yes.
Rachel Abel, yes. And Dr. Flaherty?
Yes.
I believe that's all of our members. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And before we introduce our student reps to here, I would like to share some great news that Mrs. Taylor shared with us earlier this week about 2 of the videos that were made through the high school and in support in conjunction with BevCam. And they won awards from the Alliance for Community Media. And there are links in the PowerPoint if you want to go back and watch each of them. One is about 5 minutes and the other one is about close to 7 minutes. But the first one was on mental health and the importance of young people seeking out and using our resources that we have at Beverly High School. And the second one is a great reflection from our students on the first year of remote learning. So we were really proud of that work, and it was a nice award for the high school. And now we have 2 of our middle school students with us this evening. High school, this gets to be a busy time, especially for our seniors who are now out on reach and preparing for the end of the school year. But we do have 2 of our middle school reps with us this evening, Charmaine and Oliver. And let's go to them first. Charmaine, would you like to give us any updates of the goings-on at the middle school?
Yes. So, I can hear myself from someone's device. Hold on. There we go. Sorry. So, as you may or may not know, I am part of the All-City Jazz Band here at Beverly. And yesterday we went to a jazz festival at Reading Memorial High School, where basically we play a few tunes and get a ranking from a Medal of Merit to a gold. And for the first time in the history of our jazz band, we got a gold.
Oh, yay! We didn't know that. That's exciting. Did we lose you, Charmaine?
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
And that's basically it. It was a very exciting morning for us.
That is very exciting news. Congratulations, and we're really proud of all of your work. We have a student learning exposition coming up in June. We might need to see if we can have the jazz band be part of that. Oliver, would you like to share anything with us from Team Balch?
Yeah, so my team has been preparing for the end of the year events and as graduation, induction for National Junior Honors. We also have entered the last parts of our civic engagement projects, and otherwise I don't really have any other updates.
And what are you doing for a civic engagement project?
So we have to do something to connect with our community, and we have to connect everything we've learned in civics this year to our project.
And what are you working on, Oliver? What's your project?
I'm doing youth athleticism in Beverly.
Wonderful. Well, next time we want to hear how it all came together at the end, okay?
All right.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And now it is my pleasure to introduce 2 of our fabulous staff members that are here with us this evening to talk about our summer reading program. But before we invite them to come to the microphone, we also want to acknowledge some great news for them and also offer our congratulations. Barb Fecto is the library media specialist and librarian at Beverly High School, and Alex Wozniak is here. This is her house. She welcomes us in. And they do such a phenomenal job for us, and they're a wealth of resource for our students in doing research and also finding books of interest and just fostering a love of reading in our students, which is just wonderful. But each of them goes beyond the Beverly borders, and we love when our teachers and our staff get involved in regional and state and national organizations, because it brings more valuable information and creative ideas back to Beverly. And both of our librarians this year are part of the Massachusetts School Library Association, and both serve as very important members of their executive board. And so we want to offer our congratulations to Barb Fecto, who is the Northeast Area Co-Director for this year, and to Alex, who is a co-chair for the professional learning community. And so thank you for making us proud on the larger stage. So we'd like you to come here, and would you like me to move your slides, or would you?
Whatever you think is easier.
We can,
And for the record, we are joined by Gregory Twombly and Amy Blanchard.
yes.
6:41, sorry, 6:41, 6:42.
Perfect, thank you. And then that way you can move them up.
Great, thank you. Okay. Hi, I'm Alex Wozniak. I am the librarian here at Beverly Middle School in this beautiful space, which I love coming to every day. We're going to keep this pretty quick. The basics are of summer reading that students who are entering Beverly Middle School or Beverly High School in the fall are supposed to read at least one book from the lists that we provide, and the ones entering grades 6 through 12 are also to complete an assignment that they turn in September, and it is graded and it counts toward the first term grade. A couple of years ago, we couldn't do it because of COVID shutdowns, and we did have it last year, but we had some difficulty with, really connecting with the kids on a consistent basis, with some kids out remotely and with the hybrid model. So anyway, so we're really hoping we can kind of, come back full force this year. I'm sure you guys all probably appreciate the importance of reading over the summer. But what we tell the kids when they ask, why do I have to do this, is one of my points is it's fun and cheap entertainment. Okay, it's like costs less than a lot of the things they do in the summer. Keeps your brain in shape. You want to be in shape when you get back to school in the fall. Just like if you sat on the couch all summer, you wouldn't be in shape for track. It makes you calmer and nicer, and there's actually lots of scientific evidence about that. You don't need any technology. You don't have to worry about your batteries running out or getting sand in your, device if you want to bring a book. And it is part of your grade in the fall, by the way. And you can win prizes, but they don't come from us. They come from the public library if you want to sign up at the public libraries. So we have lists for the kids. So this year, we're asking all of our kids entering grades 5 and 6 to read off of the Massachusetts Children's Book Award nominee. It was just announced. It came out today, so I was very excited that came out, because this is kind of new that we're switching to doing that. And these books are generally intended for kids who are in grades 4 to 6. And then I did a separate list for the kids entering grades 7 and 8. So these are the books, and it's a really diverse group of books, all kinds of stories, all different kinds of readers, books set in other places, including Belgium, Bolivia, Japan, other times. So we've got some books set in Massachusetts, down in Martha's Vineyard, and in California. Books that conjure fantastic worlds, ancient civilizations, parallel universes, supernatural. And there's a lot of books that touch on social issues: race, money, identity, the environment, animal rights, poverty, refugees. Books really a lot of times where kids face their fears through natural disasters, a lot of kids like that, like ghosts, challenges of disabilities, athletic challenges, academic, social ones. And a lot of it is books coming into their own and realizing the importance of friends and family along the way. A couple quick things about kind of what's new and what's the same. So we have decided to switch over to, for our younger kids, having them read off of the Mass Children's Book Award, because this is something that we can then do things with all year long, and the public library also already really supports this program. So this is something where they announce the list in May, and then the kids can vote the following April if they've read at least 5 books off of the list. So we did some things with that this year in the classrooms, and I'm hoping to continue that process next year. So by kind of weaving that in with the summer reading, I think that'll make that a little more seamless. And they really choose a good group of books, I feel. Another thing that's new this year is that this is the first year we have a specific requirement for entering 5th graders to read a book over the summer and to be prepared to share their experience. We're not going to have them do a specific assignment, but we are going to have them read off of the same list and do some activities with them in the fall with that. We're doing a book fair here in June with Copper Dog. We have done some book fairs in the past, but this is the first one we've done with Copper Dog. I love doing stuff with local businesses, and they can get the specific books that we want, as opposed to Scholastic, which you don't have as much choice with that. And we're going to use, probably a lot of the funds will be used to provide summer reading books to students who really most need them. Things that are staying the same, we'll still have grades 6 to 8 kids do a response piece that counts toward their grade. We've also been asking the last few years to have kids read at least one graphic novel of their own choosing, which is a way to say we think graphic novels are great and wonderful, but we also want you to try to read some other books. And they also have some flexibility to read off of lists that are either kind of above or below if it's the right choice for them and for their families, is what we tell them. So most of the kids pick books that are from the grade levels that we suggest, but there might be some great books on the MCBA list that are really good for kids going into 7th and 8th grade. They're free to read those. Some of our 8th graders are ready for some of the books on the high school list. So. And the Beverly Public Library really supports us by purchasing and multiple copies of formats and displaying them and promoting them. And they're really an important partner in making this whole thing work. So that's what I was going to tell you about. And we're going to turn it over to Barb Fecto so she can give you a quick fill-in on the high school.
Before you leave, Alex, just one question.
trying
Do
to get
we
through so fast.
do we have some of the titles here in the library, and are students able to check them out over the summer if they don't have access to purchase a book?
So as far as access, I've put in orders for them. The processing takes a really long time now for getting book orders in sometimes. And in fact, the website that we usually use, they've put up a warning saying anything that's ordered now is not going to probably arrive until after June 30th. So I have some of the books, but the public library they have all the books. They ordered them. They were able to get their ordering process going a little bit earlier. Many of the books are available as ebooks and e-audiobooks too. And we're doing the Copper Dog Book Fair here so that kids can purchase the books. The books are pretty much all in paperback and can be purchased in most cases for $10, $11. And then we will use some of the funds to buy books for kids who can't afford them. Okay. So there's a lot of things that we do to get the books into kids' hands and to make that as easy as possible for them. So when I have books here, I only have about 3 copies of them. So there's so many kids here, it's not deciding who gets which of the 3 or 4 copies is sort of tough. So they don't mostly get loaned out from here over the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And while we're changing speakers, I just wanted to reiterate what you said about Copper Dog. They're an amazing partner, and I've seen at the elementary level they're just finishing up doing some book fairs in all the elementary schools, and the quality and the breadth of their choices have been amazing. So, welcome, Bob.
Hi. So I'm here to repeat much of what Alex said, but at the high school level. These are our books for this year. And we have a smaller list than usual. The reason will become clear momentarily because of the Mass Teen Choice Book Awards. So we don't have grade level, at the high school, we don't delineate by which grade you're in, but both our books, the list from the public library does have a couple of the nonfiction titles are books that are written for adults, but that have teen interest. And the Mass Teen Choice Book Awards are all young adult. A lot of fiction. There's a few nonfiction titles in there too, but they should be of interest to most high schoolers. So again, in the list that we put together at the high school, I really wanted to work on self-care. And when I say this, Ms. Taylor may jump up and scream with joy. One of our books is called How to Break Up with Your Phone.
Yay!
Hopefully that's going to be a big read.
I think that should be mandatory.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. It's actually made me change my behavior a little. Find Your Fears deals with social anxiety, and this moment in your life is all about mindfulness and self-calming strategies. Then we have books that help learn how the world works. These are nonfiction books. True or False is about misinformation. This book is anti-racist. It's right there in the title. And Sapiens, which is a graphic novel about the origins of mankind, which was fascinating. And then we have some books that are historical in nature. Games of Deception is about the first Olympic basketball games, which was also in, and a little bit of the history of basketball in the Jesse Owens Olympics in Germany right before the war. And then Kicks, it's the one book it was a little hard for me to get through, but it ended up being fascinating. It's the Great American Story of Sneakers. A Place to Hang the Moon is actually a younger level book, but it's a lovely book about families who are displaced during World War II. And then The Portable Dorothy Parker is our classic of the year, which was chosen by Sean Lanigan, one of the English teachers. And I love Dorothy Parker. There's some snappy short stories and poems in there. And then Bad Girls Never Say Die is a retelling of The Outsiders, or it was inspired by The Outsiders, but from a female perspective. And then just books that I loved that are fiction. They're mostly about kids going through changes. There's one set in South Africa. There's one set in the K-pop world. Just a bunch of really interesting ones. And what's new is the Mass Teen Choice Book Awards. So Katie Nelson, the teen librarian at the public library, and I are on the board of this together, and she's amazing. I just want to say that in a public forum. So we have been involved with this since its inception. We were two of the people who were in the original cohort for it. And I also wanted to mention, although I didn't put it in the slideshow, that I have 2 Reach interns who are making TikToks about these book awards. And they're so funny, and I wanted to show them, but probably not the venue. But they call themselves Barb's Book Baddies, which I have not, but they're adorable. So the Mass Teen Choice Book Award, and I'm going to have a portal for students to vote. The Mass Teen Choice Book Award has a portal, but you can also, as a school librarian or public librarian, enter votes. And so I've got a portal that's a little bit more robust where I ask them, do you think this book is worthy of the award or not? And that's going to be an option for their summer reading assignment. So I think that a lot of kids will want to be involved in this, and it's a really great program that we hope to see continue. All right, Copper Dog, they're doing ours too, and it's the night of the spring concert, which is wonderful because we get a huge amount of parents, and they bring their credit cards. But we'll also have it during school, during the 3 lunches down near the lunches, but probably not throughout the day. It's not, it's something that's kind of hit or miss with high school kids. They just don't get as excited as the middle schoolers, the elementary schoolers. But Copper Dog's been great. Things that are staying the same for us, again, the response project counts the same towards their ELA grade. Public library is helping us out. One thing that's different at the high school than the middle school is students who are going into 10th, 11th, and 12th can also choose any book of their choice as long as they haven't read it before. It's kind of the honor system. But I've gotten some really interesting response pieces to some really interesting books from students. And so it's a way for them to just really, the onus is on them to choose what interests them, which is really how we teach them to read. We teach them what they like. And that's it.
All right. Thank you. Is there any questions for Barb or Alex?
I don't see any questions online.
I just wanted to say that what you're doing has spilled over into other communities on the North Shore. And at my own faculty meeting, you both were brought up as wonderful librarians who, and in Danvers, we're doing the same thing. So I think that's really cool. So thank you.
Tell them they can have their ideas, but they can't have them. Thank you.
Thank you for giving us the time.
Okay, the next portion of our agenda is going to move into approving some textbooks and resources as we're moving forward. We're going to start with a math recommendation. As you know, last year we did a major update on our resources for math in grades 7 through 12 for algebra, algebra 2, and geometry. And at the time, that was the focus, and didn't get to do calculus and pre-calculus at that time because a lot of the teachers teach in multiple subjects, so they were involved in the major adoption first. So this year, we went back and we looked at these resources, and our current resources are from the mid to late 90s. Our pre-calculus text that we're currently using is from 1997, and our calculus text is from 1995. So that was a driving force for us to want to update the resources. And they now, our current resources don't have a digital component to it. And of course, almost every new resource that's coming out has a digital component as well as to the text. So there was our Jennifer Thomas, our STEM director, who would have been here this evening, although her son is a senior, and this is their senior honors night, and he's getting an award. So she needed to be with her family this evening, and we're very proud and happy for her. But Jennifer worked with, Dr. Thomas worked with Kelly Pratt, Jan McDonald, Ellie Henneberry, and Mike Pellegrino. In order to make the recommendations, they looked at multiple texts, and the recommendation that they're moving forward is for My Math Lab, and that is a digital component, and the texts are available completely in a digital format. You'll see in a moment that we're going to recommend kind of a hybrid with some text and then everybody having access to the online feature. Along with the quote that we received, there'll be professional development for all of the teachers on My Math Lab. In addition to that, we would purchase 30 calculus textbooks. This would allow for a full class set. For in-school class or for students that need to have a physical text, either as an accommodation or as their learning style is more to the print version versus an online version. We would also have 30 pre-calculus textbooks for the same reason, and then we would purchase 205 digital texts through My Math Lab, which also allows for some of the features that we saw with Reveal, some online homework. It allows for some assessments to be done. It's a complete package, and we would be looking at doing a 6-year license. And the quote that we received for that is $36,004.97. Mrs. Taylor is here this evening, too, if you have any questions about the high school request. But what we do need to have this evening is a vote from our committee to adopt the recommendation for the pre-calculus and calculus resources, including My Math Lab digital platform, the pre-calculus Sullivan text, the 11th edition, and the calculus text by Demana, Waits, Kennedy, Brassoud, and Boardman, which is the 6th edition.
I'd be willing to make that motion to approve the recommended selections of My Math Lab digital platform, the pre-calculus by Sullivan, 11th edition, and the calculus by the list of authors on the slide.
Is there a second? Second. Thank you. There's been a motion and a second to adopt the recommended text. And Mrs. Abel, could you please call a roll?
Sure. Just checking, no questions. I don't see any questions online. I'm going to read in the same order, starting with our student representatives. Charmaine, would you like to vote in the affirmative? Might not be at the computer. Oliver?
Affirmative.
Affirmative, yes. Lorgan Sudak?
Yes.
And Laurel Bolden?
Yes.
And we have Dr. Silva here in person.
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Rachel Abel, yes. Greg Twombly?
Yes.
And Dr. Flaherty. I can't ever remember if you vote or not.
Yes.
The motion has passed with one abstention.
Thank you. And now we're going to move on to our ELA. We're going to start with elementary, and then I'll also have some updates for our middle school and high school where we are in the process. ELA is probably one of the largest undertakings that we take as a district when we're looking for new resources because it incorporates reading, writing, speaking, literacy. It's a very expensive proposition often when you're updating these materials. We're very glad that we have some of the ESSER funds that are going to allow us to do a comprehensive review. But it also, because it's so detailed, usually takes a little bit longer. This will be about a 1.5 year long process, elementary finished, and you'll see that the middle school and the high school are well underway, but their work will continue into next year as well. And before Cynthia comes up to present the information to you, I just need to take a moment to thank all of our literacy coaches and our teachers that served on the committee. You'll see that it was a very broad-based, very comprehensive input from our teachers and from our principals, and but in particular, the work and the leadership from our literacy coaches at each of our 5 elementary schools, and in particular, Cynthia and Heidi, who helped to facilitate and lead the process, was just amazing. And you'll see the volume of work they did, and I think that we have come up with an outstanding option for us. So at this time, I would ask Cynthia Santosuaso to come up and present.
Hi, everyone. As Dot said, we have an amazing team of coaches who collaborated on this, and I just want to recognize everyone. Jennifer Barretto, who's an instructional coach at Hannah, Nora Booth, literacy coach at Ayers, Heidi Moran, literacy coach at Cove, Marcy Nelson, instructional coach at Centerville, and Julie Shimano, literacy coach at North Beverly. I also want to recognize the many teachers who were involved in this process. We had staff from all 5 buildings, general education teachers, special education teachers, and our EL teachers too. We had Caitlin Beleza on board from EL. In addition, we had Laura Boris, Jordan Shermontaro, Nikki Jakes Hughes, Sarah Murphy, Leah Wolfendale, Colleen Costain, Marianne Marikas, Courtney Page, Noelle Palazzola, Rachel Chernihoff, Olivia Brothers, Megan Cerullo, Heather Gerard, Rebecca Hardenstein, Katie O'Brien, Sabrina Roberto, Allie Hagan, Katie Melanson, Liz Morneau, Katie Sarah, Olivia Sheedy, Joel Belmonte, Christina Moffett, Hillary Stegina, and Megan McKenna. All of these teachers put in tremendous effort and gave up a good chunk of their year, typical year, to try something new and take a risk to help out, so we're so appreciative. Just to give a bit of background in this process, we had a guiding belief from the get-go that really helped us. We felt strongly, we heard this from Desi along the way, there is no unicorn, there is no perfect program, but there are many strong horses. And this is something that we kept coming back to along the way and reminding ourselves we're not going to find the absolute perfect program, we're going to find a really good one. And I think you'll see that along the way. The non-negotiables that we set in place close to 15 months ago as a team included the program be rigorous but provide scaffolds to allow it to be accessible to all students, meet expectations on Curate and Ed Report, which are curriculum evaluation tools. We used rubrics and consensus on review tools and to review criteria. We wanted the program to meet expectations for cultural responsive resources. It had to follow the science of reading, include a current review of our core programs, Reading Street, Foundations, and Haggerty. And we also wanted to allow for interdisciplinary projects and the continuation of project-based learning, which our teachers have spent so much time working on. As far as the timeline, we broke things into 2 phases. In phase 1, the literacy and instructional coaches worked together starting in March 2021. We established the non-negotiables with the help of the principals. We began by gathering resources and developing protocols. We started with 9 programs and narrowed to 4, and then we drafted a report based on our findings. Moving into phase 2, we expanded to include central office personnel, principals,
other coaches, grade level teachers, EL teachers, and special education teachers. In September 2021, we presented findings from Phase 1 to CISL, and then in October of 2021, we began a deeper phase. We started hearing from publishers to learn more about each curricular program and really reviewing each program in depth. In November, we narrowed to 2 programs, and then in January through April, we began piloting 2 programs. And just this month in May, we voted and made final recommendations.
Cynthia, can we just add, the teachers both piloted both programs so that we didn't have one group of teachers that did one program and one did the other. We wanted them to experience both so that they could make the decision.
So the 2 programs that we worked with were EL and Wit and Wisdom. And as Dot was saying, we took a different approach. Typically, when a pilot is done, one school will pilot one program, another school will pilot another program. It often works out to be a fight over who can yell the loudest about which program they like the most. We took a very different approach. Again, something recommended by DESE called field testing. So each teacher was able to pilot one unit from each program. So they were able to compare and contrast each program, which we really appreciated. After the teachers taught one unit from EL, we surveyed teachers, and the same thing after they taught a unit from Wit and Wisdom, we also did a survey. And these are the results that we came out with. And thinking about the rankings and which program kind of had the advantage, you'll see Wit and Wisdom was the clear winner. EL had a higher ranking and level of rigor. We think that this was because we did EL first, we piloted EL first, and teachers were comparing it to Reading Street, which was our former program. We honestly think if we had switched the order of programs, we'd have different results. And it was only a slight difference. EL was ranked 8.3 out of 10, where Wit and Wisdom was ranked 7.9 out of 10, so just 4
And the teachers actually told us that.
Yes, yes. So in discussion, they said, we think if we reversed it, Wit and Wisdom would actually have been higher in level of rigor. So Wit and Wisdom had higher rankings in general accessibility, scaffolds for English learners, scaffolds for special education students, cultural responsiveness, usability of online platforms, usability of teacher manuals, instructional resources, writing instruction, assessment, and presentation slides. In looking at EL, we had a lot of teacher feedback, some pros. There was a heavy emphasis on speaking and listening skills, and the level of rigor really stood out. There were many cons. There was a great length of time devoted to one topic. As an example, birds is a topic that's covered for 2 full modules or half the year in first grade. So see some chuckles. They spent a full half the year learning about birds, which was a concern. Poor usability of the teacher manuals, poor usability of the online platform. So just that general accessibility for teachers to be able to get into the materials, it was very challenging. Materials management in general was challenging. There was a definite concern around lack of scaffolds for EL students and special education students. We found many print errors in the student materials. We had some issues with the presentation slides too. There was concern about the writing instruction and then the volume of reading that students were doing. For Wit and Wisdom, the teacher feedback, you can see there are quite a few more pros. Again, that heavy emphasis on speaking and listening skills, level of rigor. One thing that teachers really enjoyed, there are decodable texts that align with their Foundations phonics program that they use. So it bridges the content from Wit and Wisdom with the phonics skills they're using in Foundations. Teachers very much appreciated that. They also appreciated the knowledge building that was occurring with Wit and Wisdom. They really enjoyed the core text that students were reading. They found the teacher manuals and the online platforms very usable, and they also thought the writing instruction was very effective. Some of the cons we'll talk more about. Cultural responsiveness, there were some conversations around that and the volume of reading. You'll see on one of my next slides around Next steps, cultural responsiveness was something that came up from the get-go. When we started looking in general for programs, we discovered there are no elementary reading programs out there with high scores in cultural responsiveness. So we knew this was something we'd really have to work on as a district to really hold the bar.
Get it to where we want it.
Exactly. So our final recommendation, based on our teachers, we had about 92% of teachers recommend wit and wisdom and 8% recommend EL. We presented this to the cabinet and the principals last week. They also agreed to recommend wit and wisdom for fall 2022 adoption. Thinking about next steps, again, there are very specific areas we'd be addressing, looking at scheduling, to provide additional time for foundational skills in K-2, and then thinking again about the volume of reading that students are doing in grades 3 and 4. In Wit and Wisdom, there's a lot of close reading happening, and we want students to be able to read a full chapter and spend some more time reading independently. Again, the cultural responsiveness piece, we know that's something that we'll be working on, supporting students with special needs, supporting EL students, and our assessments. Any questions or general feedback?
I don't,
Questions online, Mrs. Abel?
I'm looking online. I don't see any hands being raised. I'm getting some no.
Any questions? Dr. Silva?
Where you see gaps, do you think there's opportunity just to supplement that with other content?
I do, especially in terms of cultural responsiveness. One thing that we've done, last year, the coaches received grants to build libraries with more diverse text, and I feel like there's a lot of opportunity there just to bring that in. And I do think we have a lot of resources in our hands to supplement with.
And there's projects that are going on, like Hannah does, a couple of the schools do months where they're looking at different books and do deeper studies into historical figures. And there's a lot going on with diversity and inclusion in all 5 of the elementary schools. Dr. Trocheck?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo the work, that the time, the effort, it was a collective group of people that came together with a really great plan, and the work that you did, Dot, in orchestrating that. It's a really big undertaking to review and revise an elementary ELA curriculum, and so I'm just really grateful for the work that you guys did and for the work that was done at the building level and for all the teachers who really contributed in their own way. The model, I liked the field test model where you had that opportunity to do that, and teachers had the opportunity to see both programs and look through it. So it was just great work all around. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I would underscore the field test. I would, doing something major, it's definitely the right way to go. It's a little bit more expensive because you're buying piloting materials in bigger numbers, but I think in the end, the investment of that is going to pay off tremendously, because we already have buy-in in all of the schools for the product that you're bringing in. Did you want to say something? Okay. Okay.
I also want to echo my appreciation. I think this has been the most robust conversation and presentation throughout the process, so we appreciate you bringing it to us multiple times. And with that, and with the strong endorsement, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the Wit and Wisdom program for our ELA.
Second.
And would you please call a roll, Mrs. Abel?
Sure. Again, I'm going to start with our students. If they're still with us, they may have dropped for homework, but I don't see Charmaine, so Oliver.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, and Lorgan Sudak?
Yes.
And Laurel Bolden?
Yes.
Dr. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Rachel, yes. Greg Twombly?
Yes.
And Dr. Flaherty?
Yes.
Okay. That passes 8-0.
Just before we move on to the middle school, just so you can see what we are talking about when we talk about the major investment in an ELA program, we are still in negotiations. The final quotes haven't been finalized yet, but we are looking at an initial investment for all of the texts and professional development around $500,000. And then after that, there'll be an annual digital license that will be between $50,000 and $60,000. Thank you. So our middle school has also formed a curriculum committee that involves representation of teachers in grades 5 through 8. They have met, and you'll see their timeline in a moment. They're just finishing phase 1 of their work, and we'll be moving into phase 2, doing some work over the summer, and then also in the next fall. So when you look at phase 1 of the work that they've already done, they've worked to do a needs assessment and setting a vision for the future. They've looked, they've created their committee, they've analyzed their ELA data and the curriculum needs that they have for aligning what we do with the standards. And they have also discussed, and we have come together with what the non-negotiables will be for the committee as they move forward in their work. They're setting their vision, including integrating and how they balance what we do for ELA writing and making sure that we don't lose access to our strong PBLs at the middle school. They're vetting and curating that list. As the elementary school told you, they started large and came down to 9 before they went to 4. And their goal is in May 17th to choose at least 2 pilots that they will be looking at piloting in a field test next fall. So that would be their phase 2, is the pilot and reflecting on the work of each program that they decide to test pilot, and we'll be working with PLCs and getting input and feedback from teachers. And then phase 3 would be in the winter and early spring, and that's when they will plan and launch, and we'll come back to CISL with what their final recommendations are so that we can purchase materials, do PD at the end of the school year and over the summer, and they will be ready for a full launch in the following September with their new resources. The high school has also put together a broad-based committee. They started with their goal being to offer rich, culturally responsive learning experiences grounded in complex, relevant texts that not only offer students windows and sliding glass doors into their own lives and that of others, but ultimately equips them with the skills necessary to maximize their academic, civic, and social potential. So they set their goal, and that is the work that they're moving forward with. There's been a representative teacher from each grade working with Mrs. Amber Melm, our humanities director, and their guiding philosophy in their work is including that they want students to be exposed to complex texts. They're using the work from Doug Lemove and Reading Reconsidered, and when we talk about complex texts, we're talking about texts that include archaic language, nonlinear time sequences, complex narration, complex storylines with plot and symbolism, and those that are resistant, so they're written to be difficult to understand. And they also want to have students exposed to texts that are culturally diverse with both characters and authors. And you can see some of the texts that they're looking at. They call them partner texts or companion texts. We will still be doing classics at every grade level, and they also want to have a partner or comparative text that they can use and compare and contrast or do debates with that. And so some of the topics, some of the books that they're looking at piloting for next year, and they again will come back with their final list that we will approve, is Beloved, American Born Chinese, Not Your Mexican Daughter, Just Mercy, Black Like Me, Persepolis, Poet X, Fences, The House on Mango Street, Their Eyes Are Watching God, Patron Saints of Nothing. Any questions about the middle school or the high school process? The high school will also be doing some curriculum work this summer and rewriting some of their curriculum maps and making sure that the English department is aligned to standards, and they'll be doing that work over the summer so that they're ready to take off and pilot the new texts in the fall. Mrs. Taylor, did you want to add anything in about the high school? I know this English department's got a soft spot in your heart.
Yeah. I have to stop putting my 2 cents worth in when they do their work. Amber Mom's done a very nice job of setting that criteria. So what she started with first is to sort through the current text that we have, and choose a few titles to remain as long as they met these characteristics. And that's what Dr. Flaherty meant when she talked about some other texts. You know, we're keeping some Shakespeare because it fits the archaic text. Then once we pick that baseline of sort of classic text or if not classic texts we've used in the past, then we've moved aside other texts that we've done in the past to begin to look at this new list. So I think the process has been really thoughtful. There was a department meeting today, and each of the representatives in the grade level presented to the English staff what kind of concepts and ideas we're going for, not only for the literature, but they're starting to streamline what they're going to do with writing and grammar and speaking as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. And any questions? Any questions online?
I don't see any questions online. I'm getting some no's.
Any questions? Okay. If not, just to wrap up our day again, we are removing the handbook language for the high school, and we will bring that back to you at our June meeting. And June will be a great day. Right prior to our meeting, we want to announce that we're going to be putting together a showcase of learning. We really want to give an opportunity for us to look and see a continuum of pre-K through 12, and you can get a flavor of what's happening at each of the grade levels and some of the wonderful work that happened throughout the school year. And with our shortened time frame, we can't do that in the body of the meeting, so we're going to host a showcase of learning in the cafeteria here at the middle school from 5:15 to 6:15 prior to CISL, and we hope that you'll all be able to join us. We'll be sending out invitations in the next week or so. Dr. Silver.
I have a question. It's okay. I wonder, with regard to choosing texts at the high school level, is there an effort to maybe get student input with regard to, the choices or what text are kept that they enjoyed? And
I think that is in their realm, but they want to narrow some of the text down first, and then they'll get some student input. I know that that's something that Ms. Melm's student voice is something that she's very passionate about, so I would anticipate that that would be happening. And if not, that's all we have.
Okay, thank you. In the interest of time, could we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
second.
Thank you. Okay, we are adjourned.
Do we need a vote for that, or can we just?
I'll do a quick roll call before you log off.
Sorry about that.
I think we did lose our students finally to homework. So we'll start with Lorgan Sudak. This is motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Okay, it's not debatable. Lauren Bolden.
Yes.
And then Dr. Silva.
Yes.
Ms. Robinson.
Yes.
Rachel, yes. Greg Twombly.
Yes.
And Dr. Flaherty.
Yes.
Okay.
Now we are adjourned.
So 7-0 on that last one. Thanks. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Beverly School Committee's regular school committee meeting. Tonight is Wednesday, May 11th, 2022. We are meeting in a hybrid fashion as I let a remote participant in. So we're meeting in a hybrid model using a remote meeting application that's provided at no additional cost to the district. This allows for remote participation and for the public to access the open portions of our meetings. We are also recording the meeting this evening, and we are being broadcast and streamed by BevCam. We thank BevCam for their continued service. On June 16th, 2021, the governor signed Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, and on February 12th, 2022, he extended provisions to, among other things, allow public bodies to continue to hold meetings remotely until July 15, 2022. This specifically suspends the need for a quorum in the chair to be physically present and asks our body to use technical methods to allow for safe public access. We would encourage viewers to utilize the BevCam streaming options this evening if possible. As a note, Beverly has prior approval from the Attorney General's office for remote participation, although the chair and a quorum would physically be present in those cases. So once this act expires and its extension expires, we still will have hybrid options, but the chair and the quorum will physically be present. And just to reiterate, tonight is our regular school committee meeting, which means we do have an agenda item for addressing the body. There is a sign-up sheet at the table. We have one person signed up already. The request is that if you'd like to address the body remotely, please sign up prior to the meeting using residentvoice@beverlyschools.org as the email address. Or if you're joining us in person, we have a sign-up sheet at the table. So joining us for our meeting this evening are members of the school committee, various members of the district administration and leadership teams, and I will conduct a roll call just to make sure we have, for the record, a full list of our participation. And sometimes the meeting platform doesn't display all participants. Please remember, for those remote participants, any audio or video that you supply on this platform will become part of the meeting record, and as such, you should use your mute functionality to prevent background noises. I would now like to conduct that roll call that I mentioned, just to make sure we note our participants. At this time, Mayor Cahill is not present. We do expect him shortly. We have Ms. Kimberly Coelho.
Here.
We have remotely participating Dr. Ken-Ann McKenzie.
Here.
Oh, good. I just wanted to make sure we didn't lose audio. We have Ms. Karen Robinson.
Here.
We have Dr. Jeffrey Silva.
Here.
We have Ms. Lorinda Visnick.
Here.
And I am Rachel Abel. We are joined with by Dr. Suzanne Chirocek, our superintendent.
Here.
Assistant Superintendent Dorothy Flaherty. Here. Ms. Jean Sherburne.
Here.
Bethany Splansky, our Director of Special Ed. And
Here.
Personnel Pupil Services. I will learn that before the end of this term, I promise. And we have Principal Betty Taylor in person. Here. We have Ms. Donna Bergeron, our Recording Secretary. Here. We have our Student Representative, Hollis Colby.
Here.
And also joining us this evening, Mrs. Estelle Rand, our City Councilor, Ward 2, and thank you for joining us. Vice President, is that right? Yes. Okay. I think that takes care of the roll call at this time. We're also joined with a very full audience this afternoon, and that is because our agenda includes some recognition, so we're looking forward to that. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Those in the audience can't see it. We have a flag here as well as the one that's not really blowing that much outside the window. And could I ask, Ms. Coelho, let's ask you to lead us in the pledge today.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. And without further ado, I don't know, Dr. Churchek or Ms. Taylor, are we doing the presentations of our class valedictorian for the graduating class of 2022. And
Yeah.
salutatorian.
Yes, and I'm going to ask Mrs. Taylor to join me up here.
Okay.
You give them out. Okay. We're very pleased to announce our class valedictorian and salutatorian. Obviously, these are two young people that have scored high in their academics and have taken challenging courses. But I think I can speak for about both of these young people as people that have demonstrated leadership in the school and true Panther spirit. They've reached out to their community, they've reached out to their fellow students, and they've made an impact. So I'd like to recognize first our valedictorian, Miss Olivia Arenberg. Please come up. There's a little gift, and we want to say congratulations.
Sincere congratulations.
And
No stranger to this.
congratulations. Thank you. And then I'm pleased to announce the class of 2022 salutatorian, Mr. Will Consoli.
Congratulations, and thank you for your service.
And congratulations, and thank you.
Yep, so I just want to take a moment and extend my congratulations to both of you. Both of you, I've spent a lot of time with you actually over the last couple of years. You've been very active and very helpful to us and shown great leadership. And so we appreciate everything and we're so proud of you. Congratulations. It's a great honor. So we're very happy for you.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for bringing those that have helped you along your journey as well. We will hear our student report, and then we'll take a brief recess. If you don't mind, Hollis, why don't you give our student report, and then a brief recess.
Sorry. So I only have one date for April because it was in between last meeting and this meeting, and all my dates were currently for May. So on April 26th, juniors who signed up for SAT testing took the test during school hours, and also on the day there was a student forum after school. May 12th is Parents' Afternoon Back. This Saturday, May 14th, is the sophomore semi-formal from 6 to 10 p.m. in the BHS cafeteria. On Tuesday, May 17th, and Wednesday, May 18th, there's a delayed opening for grades 9, 11, and 12 due to sophomores taking MCAS, and for students not taking the test, school starts at 10:15 rather than 8:15. On Friday, May 20th, senior reach internships end, and that night is also junior prom. May 23rd through the 25th is senior reach panels, and May 26th is a spring concert. And May 27th is Senior Academic Awards Ceremony and Reach Exhibition Fair. And later that night is the freshman semi-formal from 7 to 10 p.m. in the BHS cafeteria. And finally, May 31st is a mandatory graduation rehearsal for seniors, cap, gown, and yearbook distribution, and senior lunch. And I would also like to announce this is my last meeting as the student representative. I am now the vice president of student council, but my predecessor, I think that's the right word, or just the other way, successor, yes, is Kaylee over there. She will be doing the announcements for the month of June, and I'm pleased to, do this for the year, and I thank you all, really.
Thank you, Hollis, so much for your service and for making the time to be here and being physically present and sharing so much with this body. So thank you, and welcome, Kaylee. We look forward to your report next month. So thank you both so much. And with that, I'd entertain a brief recess for 3 minutes.
So moved.
We're in recess for 3 minutes. Okay, we are back in order, 7:46. It's always so exciting to have our students here and to celebrate with their parents, guardians, and caretakers that have helped make it all possible. So thank you, Olivia, Will, and Hollis for joining us this evening. Getting back to our agenda, we have a pretty full agenda tonight, so we're going to be looking to keep some eyes on the time as we discuss each of the following agenda items. First up is the approval of our meeting records from April 13th, 2022. I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Visnick. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Coelho. Are there any corrections, edits, or additions that need to be made to our meeting record as drafted? Not seeing any hands. Okay. I'm going to roll call. Mayor Cahill?
Yes.
Ms. Coelho?
Yes.
Dr. McKenzie?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Dr. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Visnick?
Yes.
And Ms. Abel, 7-0. Meeting records are approved. Next is our open forum for input for agenda-related items or not agenda-related items. And we have one speaker, Jen Hogan. You can come to the microphone. You just need to press it until it turns green. And we do ask that you limit it to about 3 minutes.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Jen Hogan, as Chairwoman said. I'm a resident of Ward 3, and I'm also a district-level curriculum administrator in a neighboring school district. I just had the pleasure of watching some wonderful curriculum presentations during the CISL meeting, so I just wanted to speak to that for a second. As somebody who's deeply involved in education, I recognize and empathize with how serving on this public board can be a thankless job, and I think this was especially true considering the rhetoric and the climate of the past 2 years. So tonight, I would like to publicly thank and commend the Beverly Public School teachers and leaders, as well as the Beverly School Committee for your efforts in ensuring that all students in the Beverly Public Schools have access to high-quality, research-based, comprehensive English language arts curriculum. The process of selecting, piloting, reviewing, and implementing a new curriculum of this scope is not for the faint of heart. It requires a tremendous amount of research, expertise, commitment, and time from numerous stakeholders. However, the payoff is worth it in ensuring that all of our students have the best educational experience possible and aligns with the commitment of this board to represent the needs, interests, and achievement of all students in the district and place these above all else in the decisions made here. My background in urban education has made me an impassioned advocate for equitable access to literature, language, and instruction for all students who attend Massachusetts schools, because the research is clear. A student who can't read and comprehend on grade level by the end of 3rd grade is 4 times less likely to graduate high school on time than a student who is reading proficiently by that time. When you add poverty, a student is 13 times less likely to graduate high school on time than their peers that are proficiently reading and wealthier. One of the most powerful levers that you hold as those who lead the Beverly Schools is the setting of curriculum, hence the rigorous and consistent curriculum strategic objectives cited in the District Improvement Plan. A curriculum like Wit and Wisdom, which was spoken about during the CISL presentation, is just that. An evolving body of research also supports knowledge-building curricula like Wit and Wisdom in promoting equitable literacy achievement and emphasizes the crucial role in background knowledge in comprehending what you read. There have been multiple research studies done quite well that demonstrate that students who struggle with reading the words on the page can actually outperform more proficient readers if they know more about the topic in question. Through Wit and Wisdom, as we just saw, students will get the opportunity to learn about the world around them by engaging with literacy in a way that is rigorous, inclusive, and accessible, and will prepare them to be productive citizens of the 21st century. Curriculum is the great equalizer of education. All students need and deserve an education that includes grade-level, complex, rigorous literature and academic language, regardless of native language or demographics, and curriculum decisions like those that happen tonight allow that to happen in the classroom. So once again, thank you to everyone who has worked tirelessly for months. Actually, I found out tonight it was years to make this happen. It can be challenging to unravel the roles of community member and educator, but what I will tell you is that though we do not yet have children in the Beverly Schools, I speak on behalf of my husband and I in saying that we will be proud to send our children when the time comes. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us and taking the effort to be here. Okay. And I'm just looking around. There's no one else here that wishes to speak. And we don't have anyone else online. Okay. Next agenda item is our items by consensus. Listed on our agenda are warrant items, items A through E in various amounts as listed. We will move to approve these as a group. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Thank you, Ms. Visnick. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Generally, we don't have questions, so I will call the roll. Mayor Cahill?
Yes.
Ms. Coelho?
Yes.
Dr. McKenzie?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Dr. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Visnick?
Yes.
And Rachel Abel, yes. 7-0. And now we will proceed to the school committee chair updates. And we are looking at just a couple of items this evening. Since we are a public body, our opinions are best discussed in an open meeting. So I've put on our agenda this evening the Charter Review Committee report. And I just wanted to have an opportunity for this body to make any comments as the current body serving in these positions on some of the items that related to the school committee. The report included items pertaining to school committee on pages 7, 9, and 13. And in this report, it talks about replacement of school committee members, their time served, the number of school committee members, and was one other topic. I have an excerpt. I know the report was 143 pages, and it's certainly not my expectation that we're having a robust discussion this evening, but if any committee members wished to make public any of their thoughts about the work of the Charter Review Committee and their report, this would be an opportunity to do so publicly. And again, we just want to be mindful of the time. If we need to have an extended discussion for any reason, we could put it on a future agenda. So I'll just open the floor right now. Ms. Visnick.
I think that I think it is safe to say I have been asked by several city councilors what we as a body thought about the specific changes relative to the school committee makeup. And I believe that you and the previous school committee president spoke on this topic. And so I think the city council doesn't want to take a vote. We were in a boat like this before, like the chicken and the egg. The city council doesn't want to vote about something that affects us without knowing what we think about it, and we haven't talked about it in a meeting before. So I would hope that if anybody had any questions or reservations, they would mention them tonight, and maybe by if nobody has anything to say, then the city council can infer from that we're all okay with those proposed changes. Speak now or forever hold your peace, I guess, is how I feel. I've been going to all the city council meetings, and this is what I bring forward from the city council meetings for this evening on this topic.
Ms. Robinson.
Thank you, Ms. Visnick. I'd just like to understand the process a little bit better in terms of the voting, the idea of the
Sure.
district. I'd like to understand.
Sure.
it a little bit better.
I may look to the mayor for a few tips on the way, but we have a home rule charter here in Beverly, and as part of the charter, it has a 10-year review cycle, and the charter review committee was formed at the end of last year, or maybe even the beginning of last year. So they've had a great number of meetings. Many of them were remote to start, and then in person, where they have literally stepped through every part of our charter, which is sort of the rules by which we govern our city, and had robust conversations. And then from those conversations, they boiled it down to what their recommendations might be to the city council. And then it's really up for the city council to decide if they are looking to make substantive changes to the charter and to the way that we govern our city. There are typographical and other types of edits that can happen sort of automagically, but certain things would need to be put to the voters in the community, and we would have to have a majority vote to enact changes to the way that we govern our city. That's it. from my simpleton's point of view. I don't know, Mayor, if you wanted to.
I think that covers it pretty well, Madam President. There are different ways to change a charter. The charter that is being reviewed was last significantly amended there was a Charter Review Commission elected in 1993, and then they reported back 2 years later, and it went on and the proposal went on the ballot as a whole. This is a different way of doing it through a city council appointed committee, and anything that comes out as recommendations from this needs to go, as Madam President said, to the legislature as a home rule petition. Things that go as home rule petition go with council approval and mayoral endorsement, or, so they go together. And that special legislation would need to be passed, and then the components that are identified as going onto the ballot would then go onto the ballot. They wouldn't become effective unless they pass with the ballot. Some of the changes would become effective when the legislation would be passed by the legislature and signed by the governor, and other pieces would then still need to go on the ballot. The local ballot, and that would be expected to be a year from November, if I'm understanding right.
Mm-hmm. And so the city solicitors worked with the Charter Review Committee quite extensively to outline, and that's why the report was so long. There's a table, and you can see different items. I think conceptually, the sentiments that Chris Silverstein and myself represented to the Charter Review Committee when asked, was that there is a lot of work, a lot of important work, some more urgent than others that this body does, and that sometimes having more people with availability to, for instance, do our bargaining contracts and as well as our policy work. I think we can appreciate how policy is important, but it's not as urgent as some of our other obligations. And so the feeling was that, many hands can make lighter work. Also, there was some sentiment that when the last major review happened, the number of school committee representatives dropped down to the current 7 members, and that the recommendation would be to add 2 sort of at large, one representing wards 1 through 3, 1 4 through 5. I don't know exactly how the review committee got to that actual recommendation. There was a lot of sort of spitballing about different ways in which they could add more people. But then, of course, we can contrast that with that changes what a quorum would be. That changes what a subcommittee would consist of, and it would change the dynamic with the superintendent as well to have 9 bosses instead of 7. But, by the same token, there was a list of pros and cons that the recommendation was born from. So I think I saw Ms. Bisnick's hand.
I'd just like to add that the idea of the at-large, the proposed to be added at-large members comes from the fact that historically, more than 20 years ago, when we had at-large school committee members, those school committee members at large more often than not came from wards 4, 5, 6 and not from 1, 2, 3, and therefore it gave 4, 5, 6 an uneven representation, and therefore this proposal is to make 1 for each of those so that it continues to have equal representation across the wards in the city.
Thank you.
Sure. I want to be mindful of our time. Councilor Rand was joining us. I'm not sure if she wanted to ask any specific questions of this body, but since we are in an open meeting, this is our opportunity to sort of group think. And I would remind you that outside of this meeting, you just need to be very mindful of the open meeting law, and expressing your opinions to city councilors is certainly appropriate, but making sure that you're doing it as your individual self and not as the body. Okay, we can move along. No other questions or comments? Ms. Bisnick?
When if the city council approves this, then we as a body will have to revisit what you just said about figuring out our subcommittees, et cetera. And we would do that, right?
Right.
But until that time, we have nothing like tangible upon which to act.
There is no action from this body at this time, only as current members sitting in this body to consider future bodies, because it would be a time until such changes were made. So, Mayor.
I wonder if we, I think, this is my perception, and maybe Councilor Rand can either back it up or correct it, but this would be one of the things that would go on the ballot after special legislation were to be passed. So it wouldn't go on the ballot, I don't believe, until the municipal election in 2023, which I believe would mean that the first time there would be those two district positions would be on the municipal ballot in 2025. I could be wrong about that, but that's my understanding.
Okay, well, so this body is informed that this is before the city council. The report exists. You have access to the report. If you have opinions or concerns, you could reach back out to your city councilor and let those be known as an individual. And then we'll just see where it goes. I mean, often there's status quo and nothing changes, but these are the three areas that affect this body and something that we may want to weigh in on. So thank you for your attention to that. We'll move right along. The upcoming meetings and dates to be aware of. Our May 25th meeting is of Finance and Facilities as well as Committee of the Whole. But I also wanted to highlight, this is a very busy time of the year. As we heard a couple of times this evening, May 26th is the high school concert. There's also going to be a book fair available on that date. 27th is also a very busy day at the high school. And then we roll into June, where we have our senior clapouts at the elementary school the morning of June 1st, if that's something that interests the body. We also have graduation scheduled for the 5th, Sunday, June 5th. Make sure that you let me know if there's any diplomas that you might want to hand out. As a reminder, the school committee is allowed to hand out a couple of them, and I will entertain those requests and do my best to accommodate. We also, for our next CISL meeting on the 8th of June, are going to be welcoming a learning showcase into the cafeteria space. That's going to be at 5:15. So from 5:15 to 6:15 before our CISL meeting, there will be a learning showcase available in the cafeteria here. And then at 6:30, we'll have our CISL meeting and our regular school committee meeting, again, June 8th. And then on June 22nd, which is the BMS promotion day for our 8th graders moving on to high school. That is a daytime ceremony, a little similar to how it's been the last year or so outside. And then that evening, we again meet with our Finance and Facility and Committee of the Whole. I don't yet have specific agenda topics for the Committee of the Whole, and what we have done in prior years, and rolling into our next agenda item, is to consider repurposing the Committee of the Whole for our annual retreat, which is a part of our collective agreement to have an annual retreat. We don't need to set anything in stone this evening, but I would like to at least put the idea out to the body that we could either repurpose or even reschedule our Committee of the Whole for the end of June. Last year, I believe we did it on June 30th at the McEwen Building with Dr. Morgan. And so there are plenty of opportunities. I know that I've heard a few topics from Dr. Silva that we might want to consider for our retreat. And I'm open to any other ideas from the body. Okay. So we'll, as we get closer to, we'll revisit that June 22nd date for Committee of the Whole. And then our next item, which is an action, is to set our fall calendar for our meeting schedule. And I thank Ms. Bergeron for putting together that calendar. There is one option that we do need to make before adopting this calendar, and also looking to see if there were any concerns with how it's been laid out. It's the format that we've been using with the subcommittee stacked with our regular and committee of the whole. Although the first meeting, we typically don't have a CISL meeting right at the beginning of the school year. So I appreciate how this calendar reflects a later start on that. So I guess I would entertain a motion to adopt this calendar, recognizing that in December, we could choose the 14th or the 21st. So the 21st would be the third Wednesday, but it is a little close to our holiday break.
And are you wishing for a motion of one of those two dates, or are you wishing that we motion to accept it as it is, and when those dates get closer, we would decide?
I think it would be helpful to set the date. So pick the 14th or the 21st. Mayor Cahill?
I think it's always hard to get people's attention the closer to the holidays, so I'd be up for the 14th.
I would second that motion.
Okay.
I heard a motion over there.
Yes, I move.
Okay, so Mayor Cahill moves that we adopt the calendar as presented with the December 14th date selected for our Finance and Facilities and our Committee of the Whole. And Ms. Visnick has seconded that motion. Is there any further discussion? Mayor Cahill?
I just, the note down below the dates, I'm stumbling over it as I read it. Is it drafted as we want it? What does a quorum in the chair mean?
Oh, I think, yes, there's a little typo there, I think. Hybrid option assumes a quorum and the chair.
And the chair.
And the chair are
is
physically
physically?
present. Yes, after July 15th, 2022, we revert back to the way that the Attorney General has approved our remote participation, where the chair, or it could be the vice president acting as chair or the secretary acting as chair, needs to physically be present running the meeting. And that,
Combination of a quorum in person
correct.
and the chair present.
Correct. There has to be
So it
a
allows for-
physically present chair and quorum. So 4 people have to be in person.
So we just struck in and put and struck or and
Correct.
put is?
And that was probably my typo that I shot off in an email to Ms. Bergeron. I apologize. So quorum and the chair are physically present. There's 2 typos. I think that was the speech to text fail. I use speech to text a little too much lately. Thank you. So with the December 14th date and those 2 typographical errors corrected, we have our calendar for the fall. We ready to vote? We'll do a roll call. Mayor Cahill,
Yes.
Ms. Coelho,
Yes.
Dr. McKenzie,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson,
Yes.
Dr. Silva,
Yes.
Ms. Visnick,
Yes?
Ms. Abel, yes, 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Bergeron, for getting that published for us and for putting it together. With that, Dr. Trocheck.
Thank you. I'm going to put up my report just as it guides my discussion. I have a number of items here. Hopefully some will be more quick than others. So, oh, I'm not sharing it, am I? Sorry. Screen. All right. Number of items tonight to discuss in the superintendent's report. First, I'll give a quick snapshot of COVID update. We have an overnight field trip that I'm recommending for approval. We're going to revisit the school choice participation numbers that we talked about at our last meeting. We have the FY23 budget, a discussion and a vote. I have the district improvement plan, action plan update, and just those are both, that's informational, as is the New England Consortium's FY23 approved budget, which was shared to you as supporting documentation. So, just quickly, the dashboard, this is our dashboard is available on the website. We do keep it up to date. It seems like I have a, oh, no, you can see it there. So, the numbers are shown. We have had many little upticks in some times in certain buildings, but we've been working through it. Again, I can't commend our nursing staff enough. They are truly amazing, and they have been very helpful to both the schools and the families as we go through this whole process. And this is the update from the Public Health Department. Teresa Kirsch keeps me So why did that, no, oh, there it goes. Keeps us up to date. As you can see, we're still, on the rise to some degree. Again, I think we all are aware that the numbers are only based upon what is reported. And we know that with the advent of home testing and all of those things, that probably not as accurate as we would have had in the past when we all were required to report. So with that, I would like to ask Master Sergeant Derek Wise to join us. He's here with some information for all of you. This is a voting item. As the superintendent is recommending, an approval of an overnight field trip for the high school ROTC group to Camp Edwards, Joint Base Cape Cod, Mass. on June 21st to June 24th. But I'm going to let you speak to any of the items, any of the information. Yep, right there. Just turn it on. It'll turn green. There you go.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As the superintendent mentioned, my name is Master Sergeant Wise. I am one of 2 Marine Corps JROTC instructors over at the high school. And what we propose to you is an annual trip that has been going on. It'll be my first year, and I'm looking quite forward to it. It is a culmination of events for our cadets at BHS. We're also collaborating with Salem High School's Marine Corps JROTC to make it a more cooperative event with that high school as well to get more cadets on board. Our current strength for students is 30 cadets, so 18 from BHS and 12 from Salem High School. We have 6 chaperones, including an Army medic that will provide EMT support with us 24/7 throughout the 4 days that we're on the installation. We'll get there via charter bus. Then once we get to the installation, all the transportation will be walking. There's very limited traffic aboard that base. We will, once we walk around with the cadets, we'll ensure that they are wearing a safety reflective vest and walking formation. Boxed breakfast and lunch will be provided to the cadets via the Coast Guard Chow Hall. Let me rephrase, the world-class Coast Guard Chow Hall. And meals ready to eat, which are MREs, will be provided for dinner. Billeting is in a barracks. They're not in tents like last year. They will be in 2 cadets per room. We will separate a male wing and a female wing. In the middle, that will be separated by a common area. There will be controls in place to ensure that there's no commingling during the evenings, as far as signs for administrative controls, sentries for physical controls, and locking for mechanical controls of those rooms. Safety is paramount throughout this evolution. The training will include a leadership reaction course, an obstacle course, a rappel tower, simulated marksmanship, static vehicle and equipment displays, as well as leadership classes and discussion. Now, this is their leadership laboratory. We have been preaching to them about what leadership is, and now it's their time to apply it. So these will include PPE, which is personal protective equipment such as helmets, gloves when they're negotiating any type of obstacle. There are go, no-go requirements through range control. What range control is a higher entity that's on that installation that controls the areas once we're on there. We have to answer to them. So a go, no-go requirement, for example, would be if we were to negotiate the rappel tower and it's raining, we will not go. Operational risk management says that that's not worth it, right? We will find alternate means of training if that occurs. And to sum this all up, there is no cost to any student. All of this will be paid for by the United States Marine Corps. Any questions?
Thank you so much and welcome. I think this is your first opportunity to present to us. We appreciate your time and your patience this evening as we got to you. Do members of the body have questions? Mayor Cahill.
Thanks, Madam President. Master Sergeant, thank you. This sounds really exciting. I think from the dates you're going to be there on the longest day of the year as well.
Yes, sir.
Right around there, yeah. Could I just ask you how many male, how many female chaperones?
So there are 5 male chaperones, 1 female chaperone.
Okay.
And there are 11 female cadets and 19 male cadets.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there a motion that someone would like to make to take the superintendent's recommendation for approval?
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor Cahill. Thank you, Ms. Visnick. Any further questions or discussion? Not seeing any, I will call the roll. Mayor Cahill.
Yes.
Ms. Coelho.
Yes.
Dr. McKenzie.
Yes.
Ms. Robinson.
Yes.
Dr. Silva.
Yes.
Ms. Bisnick.
Yes.
And Ms. Abel, yes. 7-0. I hope for really good weather so you get to use all the facilities. And thank you so much again for your time. And
Thank
bringing
you all
our
for your time.
students.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is the school choice parameters we had, I'm bringing back up for discussion. If you remember at our last meeting, you did vote in at the time, the slots that are available per our guidelines that we have had historically, the 10 per grade level, kindergarten through grade 8, and 15, grades 9 through 12. I was asked to check in first with Mrs. Taylor, who I believe is still here, to answer any questions about that, and also to give us an opportunity to work through the applications that we had and any lotteries that we may have to run, and what we would do. So in particular, I believe we're here only to look at grades 9 through 12 in terms of the numbers. And as of right now, there has been one change that occurred since you received this sheet. As we worked through the numbers today, we realized that in grade 12, there actually is one more slot open. So that eliminates the person that was on a wait list in grade 12. But then we did receive another application. So the question is, we typically shut off the requests. You know, if this is going to be a rolling thing, you know, that would be a problem. But as of right now, we do not have a wait list for grade 12. We do not have a great wait list for grades 9, 10, or 11. And so, you know, I guess I wanted to share that with you. And I also wanted Mrs. Taylor to share, and Mrs. Taylor, I don't know if you'd mind coming up to the microphone over here. I did go back and talk to her because one of the questions was around capacity in our classes and whether or not this would be putting a strain. One of the things that she shared with me, and I'll let her share herself, we have been working in another direction to welcome back our international students, which we've always hosted at our school. So I'm going to turn that over to Betty so she can share a little bit about those efforts and what impact it might have on some of the scheduling.
Yes, when Dr. Trocheck spoke to me about the school choice, I reminded her that there's another a body of students that we have added each year, and that's our international students. We've had a partnership with Educatius, which places international students in American homes for a year, and they go to schools. That's on an F1 visa, so each of these students is here for a year only. They don't do 4 years at Beverly High School, and they're various grades. So for this year, for example, we have 12 international students here, 3 seniors, 4 juniors, and 4 sophomores. They come from various countries: Brazil, Spain, France, Italy, and the Netherlands. Next year, they've asked us to accept 18 students. Currently, as far as the visa process is concerned, we have 12 students coming our way. And again, so far, we have 5 seniors, 5 sophomores, and 1 freshman. 6 sophomores and 1 freshman. I think the freshmen slipped by me. I usually don't encourage freshmen coming that first year. So, and we've been doing this for, I'd say 11 years. And how many international students sort of comes and goes. Certainly, the 2 years during COVID, we didn't have any international students join us. But they're coming back now and very eager to go to school in the United States. Educatius's job is to find host families to make sure the students get to Beverly, and they spend a year here. And a lot of the students who are seniors asked to participate in the graduation ceremony. They complete our requirements so they can receive a diploma, even though in some countries they also go on to a 13th year of high school. So they get an American diploma and then return to their home countries and get their own diploma. So that's another group of students that we have that we place depending on, their interests and their needs as well. And then we have our school choice students, most of the time it can work out fine because students are taking different courses. I think the major concern would be is that when some programs might tip over to a slightly larger, so it might be a special education program, or it might be an EL program, or it might be an AP course that already has a high enrollment. Though that's an impact we might see with school choice numbers. And I wanted to mention the international students because they're sort of a hidden group that you don't necessarily know that we also place.
Thank you. Looks like Mayor Cahill, you have a comment or question?
Sure, thanks, Madam President. So there's a curiosity question, Mr. Taylor, and then I think a more practical. But the curiosity is what has been our high pre-COVID in this international program? And then the real practical is, with the number they're asking, are we gonna agree to that 18? And with our, we've had our, for several year policy of 15 per grade at the high school, it looks like on choice. So you get the international, you get the choice. Are we good on capacity at those numbers?
The numbers next year are higher in a lot of places. And I should say before I directly answer your question, these students pay $13,500 tuition to Beverly Public Schools. I believe their overall cost is $30,000 because the host families also get a monthly stipend. So I meant to mention that. So I can't directly answer the question. I have noticed our numbers of Beverly, the city of Beverly students have gone up. And we have seen some rising in certain class sizes. And for me, there's an issue of space because we're also adding some more programs, some more classes. And so both making sure that our schedule is full for every student and then making sure that we have the space to do that. So I can't directly answer, but and the other problem, of course, is until any of these students arrive, we don't know what their curriculum needs are. So it could be not a concern because there's 5 sections of English 11 and 2 get put in one section and 2 in another, and it doesn't tip the numbers. But as I said, sometimes more specialized programs, sometimes it tips the numbers.
Ms. Visnick?
That tipping is also true of the students that we take for school choice, right? We don't have any insight before any of these potentially 60 children walk in our door.
Do not. They register as a new student, upon, I don't even believe they register until the summer, correct? We don't get the schedules.
Yes, that's my understanding.
Yeah, when we do the
get their application
orientations.
after they've been approved.
They get approved, and then they I don't know if they come in and actually fill out a schedule then, but yes, we approve them without knowing what their schedule would be, yes.
So in that respect, it could be that if we accept any one of these choice students, that if they wanted to register for class XYZ and it was already filled physically, for instance, in a classroom, you already had 30 children, right? I don't think those high school classrooms can really hold more than 30. Would you say no to that child and say, you don't get that particular class, you have to take a different class?
Yes, we do that for students in any case. We try to, I'll give you a common example every year. Culinary arts is a most popular elective. We never are able to provide enough sections for the numbers of students that request it. So, we try to honor upperclassmen first. So someone who may want to take it their freshman year may have to wait till their sophomore, junior year to take it. So those sort of things tend to happen.
So would you, in your role as the principal of that building, would you recommend that we lower our numbers of our choice students that were taken, given what you said earlier about your building being, I don't want to put a word in your mouth, but I translated it to your building is crowded.
It's getting there. I would recommend that you don't increase them. I think we could be okay with the current quota, but I wouldn't recommend increasing.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. We did mark this as a potential action, but I wonder if there is any motion or we want to let our prior motion stand.
My desire at the last, sorry.
Go, Ms. Visnick.
My desire at the last meeting to make a motion was because there was one lonely child in some grade that wanted in that we weren't going to be able to allow in. And
Not,
Dr. Trocheck, you said now there's no one on a waiting list, correct?
there is not anyone that that we would need to change the numbers to get in at the high school level.
Fantastic.
So I am going to throw a curveball, because I know that we weren't going to revisit the K through 8, but we have one student applied for grade 7 that is on a waiting list that is a sibling. And so that would be, I don't know if you're interested in looking at grade 7 and accommodating that one sibling. So we have siblings in our district that are there and one sibling that's not. That's just one person that's out there that I sort of have that same feeling that you did about that one person that's kind of hanging out there.
Let's hear from Mayor Cahill.
Thanks, Madam President. So, two things. I thought I heard you say before that in 12th grade, we had the one pending, and that
And then an opening
student,
came
that
up.
child's taken care of because an opening came available. But then I thought I heard you say earlier that there was a new applicant after the deadline.
That came
in
after the
grade 12.
deadline.
And so we want to say, the deadline's the deadline.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be my suggestion, because there'll be another one that comes after the deadline and another one that comes after the
Okay.
deadline. I think we have been doing that. That's historically how we have treated it. We don't revisit until, at another time when other openings may become available.
Okay, so thank you for that. And then to your point, just then, your curveball, the only thing that troubles me is the thought that there are 3 on a wait list, and we might pull one off the wait list because of a sibling, but the other 2
Correct.
don't
But-
get
but
that treatment.
The regulations do provide anyone with a sibling goes immediately to the top of the wait list. So they would be on the top of the wait list, but they would wait, and they could wait it out, and we have had that happen, and if an opening came up, we would then, look to that person. But I just want you to be aware that the regulations do say that if you have a sibling already enrolled in the school choice program, then you're at the top of the wait list. So they are going to do that jump anyway. So
This is just off the top of my head.
Yeah,
That's a hard one to
I'm
hear.
not advocating for one or the other. I wanted to be transparent that there is that sits there.
So historically, those jump to the top of the wait list, but they
Correct.
wait it out.
They wait
That's
it out.
been our
That's historically how it
historical
goes.
practice. And
Yep.
I think, past practice tends to be something we should
Yep.
hang our hat on.
Yep. I'm good with that.
Looking up and down the line one more time, is there a motion this evening, or shall we move to the next agenda item?
How many siblings? Is it just one sibling, or is it like, oh, there's 3 of the 4 children are already in our school system?
I don't know. I can't give you that information. But I will tell you that Ms. Abel's not wrong, that, waiting at the top of the list is what has been happening in the 4, and then that person would remain on the list going into 9th grade. They're applying for 7th, but going into 9th, when the numbers expand to 5, that person, would end up being able to get in, so.
Ms. Bisnick?
This is, as a parent of multiple children, it is so incredibly difficult to get multiple children to different schools that this one is really pulling on me. And I respect precedents, unlike some other people lately. We're moving right along. So I want desperately to make a motion to let this poor sibling into the school district to benefit that parent. It's unfortunate that we don't have our middle school principal here to talk at the same level that Ms. Taylor spoke about the high school.
I would say that, again, I would not be saying that we should unilaterally increase the numbers. We have a very full middle school. And, I guess I brought it up only because I didn't want it to come back later and have someone say, what about the sibling that's on the waiting list? But I'm comfortable with waiting and letting the process play through.
I'm good.
Looking online, no hands. Okay, moving right along.
All right, next one, the draft budget proposal.
Microphone.
Thank you. So the next item is our draft budget proposal. I did a presentation earlier this evening in the public hearing. I have that available if you have questions around any of the things that I proposed. Again, the appropriated budget proposal is for $69,359,898. I don't know if, I didn't prepare a longer presentation since we had it at 6 o'clock this evening. I'm happy to entertain or answer any questions.
I'm just going to call myself real quickly. We published the public hearing in the Salem News on May 12th, May 2nd. And it had run, I think we've advertised the fact at this meeting, at this table numerous times, and tonight we did not have any public speakers. I know that this committee has had a number of opportunities to hear from Ms. Sherburne, Dr. Trocheck, and others, and we had decided to put this on the agenda this evening as an option to vote. So as chair, I would say that if we wanted to make a motion, we could do so. The chair would entertain a motion to accept the superintendent and business director's FY23 draft budget for the appropriation request that goes to City Council via the mayor's budget. The total amount was $69,359,898. That was comprised of the anticipated Chapter 70 funding as well as the city contribution. So I am asking, before we enter into some discussion or questions, if anyone would like to make that motion. Mayor Cahill.
If people are ready to vote, I'll make the motion. Okay. The only thing I want to say before making the motion is all the Chapter 70s there, 13.1. The city
I know. And
number just reflects the additional money this year. It doesn't reflect the total. But that,
So
it's just an oversight, but it's not
actually
an official.
That's an old slide. That was the increase, and the total number was 56 million.
That's okay.
It's on the public hearings.
I was going by this
All right. I'm just
picture, not
confused.
that
Yeah,
slide.
sorry. That was-
So I will happily make a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation and approve this budget as the president, well, at $69,359,898.
Second.
Thank you, Mayor Cahill and Dr. Silva. We have a motion and a second. Now we may have conversation. Is there any conversation questions for the superintendent? Are we ready to do a roll call? I'm looking online as well. Ms. Bisnick.
Without spending any more time on this, because we've spent a lot of time on this already, I am elated at some of the items in this budget, including but not limited to City Connects and the sustainability numbers, as well as the restoration of a shared elementary librarian. And I would hope that as time moves forward, we can make that one person be less shared by adding another person, if not four.
Call myself real quickly. I think a couple of statements I've said in the past. Rigid flexibility has really been the name of the game with the ESSER money and other grant opportunities. I think that this is a solid budget. I think it's well thought out, and it is our moral document that aligns our resources to our values, and I would support this. Anyone else? I will call a roll. So the motion is to accept the superintendent and business director's FY23 draft budget appropriation request totaling $69,359,898, which is comprised of the anticipated Chapter 70 and city contribution. We have a motion by Mayor Cahill, a second by Dr. Silva. I'll call the roll. Mayor Cahill.
Yes.
Ms. Coelho.
Yes.
Dr. McKenzie.
Yes.
Ms. Robinson.
Yes.
Dr. Silva.
Yes.
Ms. Bisnick.
Yes.
And Ms. Abel, yes. It's 7-0, and I don't know what magic you do to get that to the mayor, to include in the mayor's budget to city council, but please
Yep.
do send that along. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and I have an update for you on, thank you very much for that, by the way, and thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't give my thanks to Jean Sherburne and the work that she has done. Putting together that budget book document is quite a task, and she has done it seamlessly once again, and so I appreciate all the work that she put in on that. So the next item I have is a district improvement plan progress update. Again, we talked about this earlier in the public hearing. These are our 4 goal areas. We have made some small changes to some of the language in the larger document, which is a 3-year document from 2021 to 2024. Each year, that is a 3-year document. This year, we're just providing an update in our focus areas. But we spent some time together as a leadership team and with some of our focus groups talking about our what will really truly represent what we have to say. And we made a change to the first goal area. We're now kind of calling that creating conditions that promote equity. It allows us to be, I think, a little more specific and intentional in some of the work that we're doing in that area. I think the past it was called engaged learning inclusive practices, and I think that was rather broad, and we feel like we're bringing a lens now of equity in a different way, and so it had impacted some of the changes of initiatives that we've chosen. So I know you will have the full document that I had sent to you, but I have sort of a little summary of each, and we continue with our rigorous and consistent curriculum goal, innovative practices, which I do believe we formally called more project-based learning, but it's a broader expanse. We're really incorporating knowledge-rich curriculum as we think about it, as we look to the implementation of our literacy program in our elementary schools, and we're sort of giving a nod to some of the idea of making sure that that content is alive and well in all of the work that we're doing in all our schools. And then finally, operations and management practices. So we have out of our district improvement plan, we have chosen 5 focus areas for the 22-23 school year. The first one, again, we looked and listened and talked about the work that we did this year and where would we go with this and what areas do we want to make sure that we're being intentional about and expanding on. And we are bringing forward an initiative that we're calling Fostering a Positive School Community, and that is creating a school community that respects diverse people and talents, elevates student voices, cultivates belonging, and engages a divergent group of stakeholders. We have a focus area for ensuring a whole child approach to success. I'm going to go through each of these in more detail in a minute. I'm just going through the list quickly. This is assessing the strengths and needs of each student through an MTSS model of systemic support that connects each student with a tailored set of school and community-based supports and resources. This essential is our work around City Connects that we're bringing forward. Advanced coursework, ensuring that all students have opportunities to enroll and succeed in advanced coursework. We're carrying that initiative forward. We had done some work on this year. We feel like that work is not complete, and we're going to continue to take a look at where we're going with that. Climate action planning, which is a new goal under operations and management for us, and that is really identifying areas within the school operations that we can reduce emissions with a goal, a very lofty goal, I've been told, of zero carbon targets. And then our hiring and retention practices, looking to develop and implement conventions that not only attract a diverse workforce, but reduce bias in the hiring process and ensures consistent, equitable practices across the district. So for each one of these focus areas, we have developed an action plan. Under the creating conditions that promote equity, we have 2 of the initiatives. One is fostering a positive school community, and what we mean in essence by that in our action plan is to make some moves that really do raise and elevate among other things, student voice. We've had a lot of conversation and discussion that rose out of a number of the forums that we have held throughout the year, that we have a lot that we can learn from listening to the voices of our students that are in our schools. Understanding diverse people and talents, cultivating belonging, and engaging a divergent group of stakeholders, making some purposeful and intentional opportunities for discourse with some of the parent groups that we have, whether it's the LPAC or the CPAC or creating the community forum opportunities that we have in the community. Some of our action steps that we plan to work through: establishing a superintendent student ambassador cabinet. We'll be reaching out to invite students from grades 7 to 12. Our goal is to have this group form a cabinet group that meets with the superintendent and cabinet maybe every 4 to 6 weeks, and discuss some of the things that are important or utilize some feedback opportunities that we can get from students. Continue with our student forums on issues of difference, race, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, socioeconomics, and religion. That's an ongoing action step that we have begun this year. We've spent a lot of time talking about what would we do differently? What improvements might we make? One of the areas that we know we've had robust conversations with our students in our buildings and in our classrooms. Even one opportunity within the community, that opportunity wasn't as well attended as we'd like, so how do we increase some of the ways to communicate that with the community? The high school in particular is talking about a series of informational public service announcements to amplify student learning, student-directed and produced. I think a couple examples of that were the award-winning videos that Dot Flaherty had showed you this evening, but in that same vein, thinking about utilizing some of that and really capitalizing on it. Looking to utilize personal narrative and to build strength in strong school and classroom communities through some of the initiatives that we already have, strengthening some of the opportunities for that around responsive classroom, restorative circles, and storytelling opportunities, and in continuing with our professional development plan, which provides opportunities to deepen skills and strategies on embedding culturally responsive and social emotional strategies into the classroom. We did identify 2 early evidence of change benchmarks, climate surveys to measure student, staff, and student perceptions, and our professional development exit surveys, as well as review of advisory morning meeting lesson plans, administrator walkthroughs, and faculty meeting agendas. So, and then obviously we have funding resources that will support that goal. Sorry, I went ahead too fast. The second goal here, this is in essence, as I said, a goal that will kind of go along with the implementation of the City Connects program that model that we're working through. And these are the action steps in line with the scope of work that we're going to be doing with City Connects, which is to assess each student's strengths and challenges across 4 domains, including academics, health, social, emotional, behavioral, and family, connecting students to a range of prevention, early intervention, and intensive services. Those are the 3 tiers that address physical, emotional, cognitive, and social development, identifying gaps in services available to the school, engaging school staff and community partners to facilitate the development of additional resources, engaging family and caregivers by capitalizing on their knowledge and support with their familiarity with ways to enhance student outcomes, and the collection of data to implement on the implementation of the model and delivery of services to inform the practices. We did set a couple of early evidence of change benchmarks there, students being entered into the system and listed and tiered in response to the level of need, and that data is incorporated into our existing cycle, as well as the coordinators regularly participating in coaching opportunities. And again, we have some funding sources to support that. Our third focus area is, as I said, a continuation of the advanced coursework that we had talked about as a group. And in that regard, we are talking about engaging teachers, administrators, and other staff at all levels in professional development about cultural competency, diversity, equity, inclusion, anti-racism, and related issues, examining subgroup data with school leadership teams and staff for participation in advanced coursework, developing district-wide expectations for participation in advanced coursework that represents a broad range of students, assess, evaluate, and refine the course selection process. I know you're aware, Julie Ferrara, in her role as college and career ready at the high school and with the team there, has done a tremendous amount of work, really refining the course selection process for students this year. They did a lot of work of making sure they were introducing students to a broad range of offerings. They had AP ambassadors that were circulating to make sure that we were doing it. So those were sort of beginning efforts that we made, and so now we really want to take some time to assess and evaluate how did that work and where are we going with that, as well as now, if we've recruited a number of students to join us in our advanced coursework, how are we supporting and providing supports for students in those, and providing deliberate supports for those students who might be new to that advanced placement coursework. And again, we have evidence of early evidence of change benchmarks, walkthrough of advanced courses, citing evidence of culturally responsive teaching in UDL, and a survey of students who are new to advanced coursework. We have a goal on innovative practices. because we haven't selected one of these as an initiative doesn't mean we're not doing this work. We're doing this work ongoing, but none of these are particular focus areas for this year, aside from the ongoing work that we do regularly in our schools. And then finally, we have 2 goals under operations and management: reducing bias, hiring and retention practices. And so we look at developing and implementing conventions and procedures that not only attract a diverse workforce, but reduce bias in the hiring process and ensure consistent, equitable practices across the district. We actually are wrapping up our second in a series of trainings for all of our administrators who are involved in the hiring process. Erin Brown has been leading the work for our administrators with some very explicit training on bias and some work around consistencies in the way that we're from things all the way from our job descriptions and making sure the language in our job descriptions are sort of free from bias, to the development of questions that we would ask that might elicit some of that, to some of the opportunities we've had for to attend job fairs, to expand our candidate pool. But this year, we're adding as our process benchmarks to review the end-of-year hiring and retention data. So we really wanted to take some time and look at the data. What did our efforts yield? We want to do exit interviews on staff as they either retire or move out to see what they think. We've actually come in contact and developed a survey to interview candidates at the end of the process on how, sort of regarding our process and reflect their reflections on equity within that process. So we hope to do that this summer. Developing a district-wide standardized procedures for hiring. That work has been ongoing. Engaging teachers, administrators in professional development. Again, that's part of one of our action plans for everything. Redesigning the workflow and related documents to the hiring form submission process to human resources. So just sort of taking a look at that whole process of hiring and how they're submitting their information, and just sort of looking for those so that we can utilize them to look for consistencies. And then we're going to continue our participation in the teacher diversity professional learning communities that we've been a part of this year. That process has been very helpful to us. We have a teacher team, and it's provided us with a lot of resources, including the survey and some of the ideas that we've been working on. We're going to, our early evidence of change will be a review of the hiring documentation, looking for fidelity to the practices, and a utilization of a completed manual for hiring procedures, which we hope to have in the hands of administrators at the beginning of school next year. And so then our final focus area is climate action planning for schools. This is a kind of a new step out for us into taking a look. We know that we had taken some baby steps forward prior to the pandemic on some of our efforts within our schools. We also know that we have a lot of ongoing efforts that we partnered with the city with, whether it's our electric vehicles, and we also know that we're going to have some solar canopies constructed at 2 of our buildings. So we have a lot that we can learn from. We have a lot of opportunities for education for our students. We have a lot that we are, I believe, leading the Commonwealth in. Beverly is a leader in this area among all of the cities, and we are proud of that, and we want to also be seen as a school district that's a leader in the area in this as well. So a couple of weeks ago, we talked about this, and I said I was planning to have a plan, so here's my plan. We are looking to create a climate action committee to conduct a review of operations and sort of identify areas that we can move forward in. We're going to continue to connect with city efforts and community partners to advance the school efforts in sustainability. The city has Arena Keefe, who is their sustainability officer. I'm not really sure what the actual title is. Director. And we have had communication with Arena over the last 6 months. There are many opportunities for us to work with her. I know she's sort of stretched kind of tight right now, so we don't want to dominate all of her work, but we know that we need some help in that as well, and so we're really excited to be able to kind of rely on that resource to help us in our efforts. We want to conduct a more specific review. I didn't want to use the word audit because I'm not really sure how that works, but a really more specific review of the current efforts that we have in all of our buildings around recycling and trash reduction. We want to look and do a review and identify opportunities for food waste diversion and composting, increase awareness among students about the ongoing efforts with solar energy and electric vehicles, and continue to identify curriculum areas to teach lessons on preserving the environment and sustainability. And so, again, we know that I always look for what is that early evidence of change. We know that the creation of the committee will be a piece of evidence that will tell us we're moving in the right direction, and then walkthroughs by administrators on lessons around a variety of sustainable curriculum and what are those opportunities. So that is what we have for our action plans for the coming year. This doesn't really require an action on your part. It's really more informative, but I would be happy to answer any questions that anyone has about any of it. We do know that this district improvement plan is now shared with the schools. They will be presenting their school improvement plans, I believe, at CISL next month, and this is the starting point for them to draft their school improvement plans. So they're connecting individual school improvement plans with our larger district improvement plan. So,
Okay, I saw Ms. Robinson's hand first, then Dr. Silva.
First of all, thank you for this comprehensive plan. This is great. I just wanted to, one comment on the first one, establish a student superintendent, student ambassador cabinet. Just on inviting students, I was just curious how we go about
That's a
inviting
great question.
students, because so often we see the same faces and the same voices, hear the same voices, so.
That's a really great question. So, I've had the fortunate opportunity to be part of a group of superintendents that it's actually a national group called Lead Now, and I've spent some time. I actually was in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago, and that's where this idea really came to me. This is something that some of the larger school communities have. I'm working with them. There is a selection, an application process, so to speak, but also, I think we're looking for a broad range of voices. So I don't have that finalized yet, but I'm consulting with a number of people who have already done this work as to how do they do that, and again, how are those agendas created, and how do we make sure that we're utilizing them to the best that we can. So I will share more information when I have more information, but thank you for asking, because I'm kind of excited about that. I think it's a great opportunity.
And the other question I had, in terms, I was thinking about, we talked about numbers. Sorry. I was thinking about the numbers that we said, we have big classes, but in terms of if we're trying to add a lot of students to our advanced courses, I'm just curious, what would be the highest number of students we'd put in an AP course without, when will we say we need to open another section? Because if we're trying to get more kids in there.
I don't know if Mrs. Taylor's prepared to answer that question, or if I can get back to you with more information. She's never going to come again now when I make her come up to actually answer the questions, when I can usually just say, let me get back to you with that. The question was, is there a cap? What is the tipping point for an AP class for you to add another section?
Because we're trying to add, have more
Right.
kids take AP
So,
courses.
the capacity is 30, and then really, the next question becomes the staffing. So let's say we don't dedicate one teacher to all AP courses. So it's really how many sections of an AP course we offer. So that varies. I just saw some numbers about what's coming up for next year. Again, this is Julie Ferrara getting on her work. So, for example, one of the new AP courses we're offering is, I'm trying to remember which one is.
Geography, I think.
Well, is human geography, but the biggest one that got the biggest response is psychology. 76 students have signed up for that. So we're talking about at least 3 sections. But I'm trying to take a look at staffing schedules to see if I can spare 3 sections from whether it's 2 teachers or 3 teachers. So that's actually, it becomes a factor down the line. But we go to 30, and then we see how many sections we can offer depending on our staffing. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Silva, you were next.
I have a question about, it's great to hear the plan that you have and all the thought that's gone into the curriculum. One of my concerns is the policies around cell phones in the classroom, because with all these great policies, engagement is critical, right? And so I'd like to hear from Dr. Cherachek, Principal Taylor, and maybe Dr. Hershey, about whether you see.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Flaherty, sorry. About whether cell phones are a problem today, and what changes are needed to basically take advantage of, to be able to implement these changes and
So your
have an
question
impact.
is right on point. Actually, earlier you heard Dr. Flaherty say that we have our handbook approvals and that we didn't have any specific changes, but we have one coming forward next month, in particular the use of electronic devices. So that's a policy right now that Mrs. Taylor has been working with the staff to get staff input and staff understanding on, how best to enforce and strengthen the compliance around cell phones and that sort of thing. So it is definitely on our radar. We are hearing from teachers that it's a concern. We do have a policy that is in play that says that there has, I'm not really exactly sure where each piece of it goes, but I will tell you that we're in talks with the teachers. We do have to work through what the questions are, and we want to make sure that what we do is, it's one thing to have a policy, it's the other at what happens at the implementation level, right? And so we want to make sure that we have buy-in from our teachers and that we're working together with them so that when we put together the final say, and so that's coming forward next month. And I will say the same thing is happening at the middle school. It's not a policy change at the middle school, but there's been a lot of conversation and discussion about the implementation and enforcement of the policy that does exist. And Mrs. Oliver's been working really hard on that,
That's
too.
great.
So,
That's
yeah.
great to hear.
Yeah, thank you.
Looking to see if there's any other hands or questions, comments for Dr. Trocheck on the district improvement plan. I'm not seeing any.
I have one last thing, and that's just to remind you that you got in your supporting documentation a copy of the North Shore Education Consortium's FY23 budget. That also is not an action item, but we do, as a member of the consortium, we're responsible for making sure that you have that information and that you understand that this is their approved budget. As the superintendent, I sit on the school committee board for the North Shore Consortium. Their setup is that every superintendent is a representative on the board. So I just wanted to make sure you had that document and know that you have it. And if you have any questions, you can certainly email me, reach out to me, or to Bethany if you have specific questions that you think that you might need answered. So that was it.
Thank you so much for your report. No questions there? Okay. Moving right along, we have our committee reports this evening, and we'll start with our Standing Committee on Finance and Facilities. Ms. Visnick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The highlight of our last meeting was that we got to hear about the Centerville Cafeteria Refresher Project. We were treated to a video tour of the cafeteria and the kitchen before and then after the revamp. Ms. Leal and Dr. Trocheck both spoke to how the project was imagined and then executed. If you haven't seen the video, I would encourage you to watch the BevCam. Thank you, BevCam. We showed the video on during the meeting. I'm elated to report that each of the other elementary schools are slated to also get an update, although I doubt that any of them will be the Beaver Lodge.
No,
The eager beavers eating in the lodge. Maybe we'll have the eagles up in the nest over at Ayers, and I don't know. Maybe we'll have some ships in a harbor at the Hannah. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so that's we also had some technical difficulties at that meeting, so not a lot of other things were discussed in our very shortened meeting. So the Standing Committee on Finance and Facilities brings forward the following gifts to schools in the amount of $1,250, $1,000 from the Institute of Savings for the Beverly High School Senior Celebration, and $250 from the BMS Masonic Angel Fund for gift cards for Blaine Avenue.
I would make a motion with gratitude to accept the two gifts totaling $1,250.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Coelho. Any discussion? I'll call the roll. Mayor Cahill?
Yes.
Ms. Coelho?
Yes.
Dr. McKenzie?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Dr. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Biznick?
Yes.
Ms. Abel, yes, 7-0.
Thank you, everybody. The Standing Committee on Finance and Facilities brings forward the transfer that's in your packet, number JE764.
I'll make a motion again for journal entry 764, the transfers as outlined and recommended for approval by the Finance and Facility Committee.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Any questions or concerns? Okay, I'll call the roll. Mayor Cahill?
Yes.
Ms. Coelho?
Yes.
Dr. McKenzie?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Dr. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Visnick?
Yes.
And Ms. Abel, yes, 7-0.
The Standing Committee on Finance, thank you, everybody. The Standing Committee on Finance and Facilities brings forward the following sets of grants for FY22 to be accepted, totaling $25,250. These are all from the Mass Cultural Council, $3,500 for the Cove Stars Residency Program, and then $5,500 each for the middle school, high school, Centerville, and North Beverly Stars Residency Programs. Again, for a total of $25,250.
Would someone like to make a motion to accept?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Coelho.
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Silva. Any questions or comments? I will call the roll. Mayor Cahill?
Yes.
Ms. Coelho?
Yes.
Dr. McKenzie?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Dr. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Biznick?
Yes.
And Ms. Abel, yes, 7-0.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. We are slated next to meet on Wednesday, May 25th, right here in this room at 6:30 in the evening in a hybrid model. We're maybe have to talk about that a little bit more. My fellow FNF committee members, I am scheduled to be on vacation that week. So we'll see if I can run the meeting from afar or if I'm going to need somebody to step up and do that for me.
Sounds like a plan, and we also want to talk about our committee of the whole that evening, so we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's May 25th. Yeah. Okay. We'll still figure it out. Okay. Standing Committee on Curriculum Instruction and Student Life.
Thank you. So we held our meeting this evening, just before this meeting. So we heard from our student representatives from the middle school that the all-city jazz band won gold yesterday in Reading. It was exciting. We heard from our BMS and BHS librarians, Alex Wozniak and Barb Vecto, who spoke about updates to the summer reading program and shared that Copper Dog Books would host book fairs at the both schools in June. At the elementary level, we adopted both a new math program called My Math Lab and the Wit and Wisdom program for our new ELA literacy program. And at BMS and at BHS, they are, in terms of ELA, they're in program review and the adoption phase of their literacy programs, all levels from elementary to high school, included providing students with a rich, culturally responsive experience grounded in complex and relevant texts. And our final CISL meeting of the 21-22 academic year will be held on June 8th. And then prior to our 6:30 meeting, our CISL meeting, there will be a showcase of learning in the BMS cafeteria from 5:15 to 6:15.
Great, thank you, Ms. Robinson. And Dr. McKenzie, you and I need to set a date for me to pass along a lot of the policy work. This gets to the conversation we had earlier that there's a lot of important work that we do as a body. Some of it's more urgent than others, and this is definitely something that we need to pick up again so it doesn't become a hero's effort to revise the entire policy. So we will look forward to selecting a date soon to do that
So
transfer.
let's say we'll pick a date in June so that we don't move past the summer.
Sure. Okay. We'll pick a date for that. Now, final item of our agenda this evening is for communications for school, from school committee members. Are there any communications that need to be brought to the table? I saw Ms. Visnick's hand.
I'm going to try to say my concerns first and then end on a good note. I had two concerns over the last couple of weeks. One of the two was around people not having enough advance notice around the community conversations event that was hosted by the schools. And so there's still a little silver lining in there that people want to attend those, but there were very precious few people were actually in attendance, even though we don't know how many people were watching from home. But if we can get out the notice about those events sooner, then I think we'll have a better chance of getting people in the seats or online maybe. Concerns about some of the activities happening in the schools and off grounds based on some communications that went home the last couple of days. And I think that longer term, we can look at our budget and we can look at our plans and see that we have some plans to address things. But I think there's at least one email in my box that says, but what are we doing, quote unquote, today? And so that email is probably going to come your direction maybe tomorrow. Today was a heck of a work day. And then on a good note, a lot of good feedback about Walk to School Day, and as well as the videos that librarian Barb Fecto talked about that won some awards. So that's a very cool thing. We always like to celebrate great things in the school system.
Thank you. Are there other members? Ms. Robinson.
Thank you. So I just had a couple people ask about Beverly High School finals. Just about how our students going to be prepared for just having never really taken they took midterms, but they didn't count. But the idea of how are they going to be prepared for something that's fairly new to a lot of students, or some students haven't had them in a really long time. And just would a schedule go out for finals? Because I think there was a discrepancy on the video that was out last night. There was a date discrepancy.
She just left.
Oh.
In her principal's memo, she did address, and they had a faculty meeting today, about making sure that students were prepared in the review so they knew what to expect and what to study for. And I'm sure that there'll be a schedule coming out. We actually have a visioning session with them tomorrow, and we'll clarify and get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Cahill?
Yes. Our students do so many great things. Between our public hearing and this committee, the whole meeting, I went over to the high school because our Beverly High School Political Review Club, I think that's what the name of it is, had invited Representative Paracella, Senator Lovely, and me to a Q&A, which was a fantastic session. So, yeah, and we know they do great work every day. But that was a really fun event with all initiative of our high school students. And I suppose it's good to share this. Now that we've got a budget approved, I'll be presenting the whole budget, school and city, to the city council on Thursday, May 27th. It's typically a brief presentation, and then they just take it, refer it to subcommittee, and they have that whole schedule of hearings that'll start, I think, the following week. But it'll go to them on May 27th. Thanks.
Thank you for those reports. I will add, I think I received a couple of similar emails from constituents, as did Ms. Visnick. I forwarded it along to Dr. Trocek. We also, I think, all received, or many of us received, an email still asking us about masking in schools and about mask breaks. So those have been forwarded along as well. I had the great pleasure of participating or observing some of the 8th grade civics projects, the civics engagements that are ongoing, and I would encourage each of us to help out. There's a number of initiatives the 8th graders have underway as they finish their civics engagement for their class. So look for those opportunities to donate for bootstraps or clean up Paddles Park. And then also, hopefully, some of you have heard from some of the REACH projects at our high school. I know that there are people that are interested in local politics, for instance, and I would encourage everyone just to mark that date for when the REACH projects are displayed at the high school, because it's a really fulfilling and rewarding opportunity to see our students as they leave us do, put forward their best work. So just an encouragement there. I think that's it from my perspective, unless there's someone else. I'm looking. No. Oh, Ms. Coelho, go ahead.
I don't have anything from communications from constituents, but I have some from my son. My second grader, it was his first walk to school. And he said, as Miss Meza states, it was the cat's pajamas. So he was all excited about that. And I took him to Stop and Shop, and he tried to buy 25 boxes of cereal because Centerville is doing their Domino's box of cereal thing right down the hallway. So if you're in Centerville, donate some boxes of cereal for the kids so they can do their Domino's.
Thank you. Okay. With that, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Bisnick.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Coelho. It's not debatable. I'll call the roll. Mayor Cahill?
Yes.
Ms. Coelho?
Yes.
Dr. McKenzie?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Dr. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Bisnick?
Yes.
Ms. Abel? Yes. 7-0. 9:10. How did we do it with such a robust agenda? Thank you, BevCam, as always, and thank you for watching at home.
Thanks, everyone.
We are adjourned.